The story begins in the square where the guillotine is located. The crowd roared and screamed. They tried a girl who was accused of being a real devil with the appearance of a virgin. People demanded punishment for her. The commander approached the girl, who was being held by 2 soldiers. He accused the girl of being a sinner and defrauding the entire empire. People put their hopes in her, and she used it for her own good. The man emphasized that the sinner had to fully answer for her actions. In a voice as cold as the grave, he gave the command to begin the execution of the punishment. A girl addresses a man. She calls him father and asks why he came so close to the sinner. After all, it can be dangerous. Miasms and disease-causing influence could be spread by this person. Doomed to punishment, she looks after the man and the girl. The accused tried to say something, but her mouth was covered with a rope. Desperation and pain were visible in her eyes, and the girl smiled slyly and insidiously. The day before, a girl in a dress visited a sinner in prison, accused of treason and deception. The girl said that at last she had to show the poor thing something. Mana was raging all around. Energy filled the room. The prisoner realized that water spirits were raging around. The young woman in the form of a girl knew that her interlocutor had seen spirits, and this was proof that she was the daughter of that foolish man. The girl took the poor woman by the hair. The prisoner's name was Kira Farvis. She was of noble and pure blood. However, fate played an evil joke on her, and she became a traitor. The hatred of the people is directed at her. Kira turned out to be the Archduke's fake daughter. Although it could be a lie, no one was 100% sure. And in fact, she could be real, but no one will know that. The girl was about to leave the cell, but she could not mock the Archduke's daughter. She recommended repentance before their next meeting on the scaffold. After all, the punishment will take place tomorrow. Kira was closed in pads. The guillotine was about to come down. The soldiers were ready to carry out the orders of the executioner. The crowd was clamoring around and demanding the spectacle it lacked. People went crazy. The status of the Duke's new heir suddenly began to collapse. He was losing the respect and favor of the aristocracy and noble families of the state. A crisis was to come in the near future. People's hopes were on prophecy. Among the entire population of the vast empire, only one child blessed with the spirit was to be born. It was the Farvis family that were chosen by the water spirits to give them their blessing for salvation. All the daughters of this family, after reaching adulthood, discovered in themselves the ability to see and hear water spirits. Beatrice, the great spirit of the water world, and the gift of an unknown demon, must bring rain to the continent. Kira was the first daughter of Duke Farvis. It was she who had to receive the blessing of the spirits and the help of the demons who possessed the element of water. The girl grew up a pure and honest lady, behind whom evil was not noticed. Everyone around wished her only good, and her parents were reminded that it was they who would save all the people who inhabited the continent. The same girl wanted only one. She wanted to be worthy of her father. Kira grew up without a mother. The girl's mother died during childbirth. The daughter wanted love from her father. All her efforts were to get as much attention as possible from her father and become his favorite. The girl constantly thought about what she was doing wrong and was always very strict with herself. Everyone noticed her diligence. The teachers were delighted with how seriously she took education and the lives of her subjects. Everyone said that they had never met a more talented child. Women admired the girl, and men praised her for her diligence and skill. The father should have been happy to have such a daughter. But he did not notice it. Kira ran to her father to get at least some attention. The man looked at her and went about his business. He believed that she could tell the news later, after dinner. The girl asked to forgive her because she disturbed his peace and distracted him from more important matters. The Duke never hugged his daughter. The women in the estate were surprised at this attitude. Kira had one idea, after which her father definitely had to visit her. The girl was about to fall down the stairs. Being injured, she could expect that her father would come to visit her. When the girl woke up, there were traces of the doctor's work on her. The servant stood in front of her and watched her with pity. But the main thing never happened. Kira is upset. Her father never came to visit her and ask how she was doing. Kira lost hope that her father would ever notice her. Her father's love for her became more and more a ghostly thing. In this way, she lived for a full 18 years. During this time, she never felt any love or banal attention from her father. Everything he did for her was automatic. Most likely, she would have lived in torment all her life, if that girl had not appeared in her life. She was the daughter of Duchess Rowena. Her name was Cosette. She was a pretty girl with pleasant, gentle features. Cosette introduced herself and reminded her that she was his eldest daughter by Duchess Rowena. The girl's appearance was deceptive. After all, something was hidden behind the pleasant external appearance, and knowledgeable people noticed it. The Duke was skeptical of Cosette. He asked if Lady Rowena had not been banished from his domain baron, and her brother Isaac was absent from the duchy for 15 long years. Where was this girl from? The ladies around said that the further fate of Rowena was unknown, but the girl was an exact copy of His Majesty the Duke. Kira couldn't believe it. She was both happy, and something bothered and confused her. The Duke asked the newcomer if she could somehow prove her words. Cosette replied that when she had such an opportunity, she would certainly prove the truth of her words. The man agreed to listen to her. The only question that bothered poor Kira was what kind of person her father really was. After all, he gave the impression of a harsh and too rational ruler. From that very day, Kira's usual world changed dramatically. The new sister often disturbed the girl. She tried in every possible way to pester her and disturb her, or to make fun of her. The girls were sitting at a long table for lunch. Their conversation was about nothing concrete. Cosette was delighted to talk about her new room. The girl had never lived in such luxury, and now she got what she deserved. Cosette also tried to make friends with her sister, but she still didn't know if she wanted it herself. The girl's face somehow made her nervous and angry, which was not typical for her at all. Rowena's daughter suddenly dropped a glass on the floor. The servant began to run around the new mistress and please her in every way. The girl was pleased with this attitude. The servants tried to calm her down. Kira calmly sat at the table and enjoyed the spectacle. Cosette begged her forgiveness for causing such a mess. The sister promised to assign her an etiquette teacher to help. Cosette called the servant and thanked him for breakfast. The maid assured that she could cook more, but the girl refused. She asked how she could apologize to Kira for the spoiled breakfast. The girl said that Lady Kira was very kind and empathetic. Everyone around loved and respected her, but His Majesty's newly arrived daughter became more like the Duke himself over time. Kira trained with a sword. Her thoughts were far from this place. The girl was thinking about a new relative. After all, so little was known about her. In addition, her manners indicated that she did not grow up in a noble family. The girl thought that she was definitely His Majesty's biological daughter. What exactly is not known about Cosette? Kira possessed the power of the spirit of water, but her sister was the question. She would also have these skills. But suddenly, she remembered that in the prophecy, it was about one daughter who was supposed to possess the powers of water spirits, and only one of them was to become a shield of salvation for the people. The other was a fake, which, on the contrary, will bring chaos. And if Cosette, due to her age, connects her fate with the spirits of water earlier, then Kira, in the best case, will simply be driven out of human possessions. And in the worst case, she will pay with her life. Cosette went to her sister to show her the flowers she picked in the meadows. The girl liked them very much, and she decided to take possession of them. The girl asked Kira what she was doing here alone. Kira replied that she was training, and now she is tired and wants to rest in peace and quiet. The sister can get away from here. Cosette asked why her sister was so unfriendly to her and spoke like that. When the girl told Kira that she just wanted to be friends with her, she replied that they didn't know anything about each other at all. This is very little for friendship, and she simply has no desire to make friends. Cosette asked Kira directly if it was because she was the Duke's illegitimate daughter. Kira is shocked by such words. She had never heard anything like it. No one dared to doubt her, but the newcomer began to press on her. She spoke about the fact that she did not blame Kira for the fact that her mother gave birth to another man. Even with dirty blood running through her veins, she is raised as a lady, and Cosette does not care about this fact. It was clear that the girl's true nature was far from good. Then she began to talk about her mother, who was driven out by treachery and taken away from what should have belonged to her. Cosette continued to say that it wasn't really Kira's fault, but her mother's. It was this woman who dared to deceive His Majesty and betray him with a stranger. And after that, she drove out the real Duchess. Kira could not stand it. She put the sword to the girl's throat. The Duke's daughter, angry, ordered her to stop talking about her mother like that, or else she would wipe the smile off Cosette's face and make her answer for it. Maids hurried to the girls. The women were frightened by what was happening. They asked the girl to stop and remove the sword from her sister's throat. The maids definitely did not expect such behavior from a quiet and gentle girl. The servants gathered around Cosette, who was lying on the ground. The girl tried to explain that she just wanted to make friends with Kira, but she reacted unexpectedly and threatened her with a weapon. The women were outraged. Cosette continued to play the scene. She assured that she would no longer prevent her sister from resting after training. She wasn't going to get bored, she just wanted to spend time together like sisters. Kira was not going to put up with this. She assured that one cannot be called a sister and at the same time say such bad words about the mother of the named sister. The girl did not pay attention to the maids and their request to calm down. Servants noticed blood on Cosette's dress and hurried to take her to the doctor. Although the girl resisted, she did it for the sake of appearance and playing to the public. Finally, she looked at Kira slyly and angrily. The Duke, meanwhile, remembered his first wife. He was sitting in his office and alone, scrolling through scenes from the past in his head. Then they were expecting a child. The woman asked to name her son Christian. And if the daughter is Cosette, the wife assured that she should not tell anyone about it. It was to become their personal secret until a certain time. After all, enemies may try to harm the child of His Majesty, the Duke, and his family. It was difficult for the man to make a decision now. However, Cosette's face was very similar to his. Everyone around was talking about it. Someone knocked on the door. The Duke was waiting for only one person to attend his audience. Kira came in. The girl knew why she was called. After all, she was never called here before. The father asked about the reasons for the incident, which was reported to him. He wondered why she threatened the sword. The girl asked what happened to him. Of course, the father should have been happy about the appearance of another child. But now his actions are not at all rational and difficult to analyze. But he interrupted her with a request not to arrange anything like that again. The father continued to explain that the sister lived as a commoner, so she did not have the manners and etiquette inherent in the daughters of aristocrats. And she can blurt out something extra without even noticing it. Kira was not going to listen in silence. She explained that Cosette was the first to dare insult her mother and hint that the woman had been unfaithful to her husband. And Kira, according to her, was not the Duke's daughter. The girl explained that she can tolerate the insults thrown at her, but she is definitely not going to listen to someone calling her late mother names, and will not give it to anyone, regardless of status. The man promised that they would soon find out if it was true or a lie. His words shocked Kira. It became scary because the Duke himself began to doubt something, and as he had not treated her very well before, Kira remembered the last days of her mother's life. Then she explained to her still small daughter that under no circumstances should she cry or complain about anything. She was a true nymph of the Farvis family. The girl fell to the floor. She was ashamed, scared, and she did not understand why all these years she tried to win a good attitude from her father, but nothing came of it. All these years she did her best. Kira was hurt that her father dared to doubt her mother. After all, in her life, she had nothing more precious than his love. Cosette snapped out of her thoughts. She saw her sister and asked why she was lying on the floor. The new sister was not going to help Kira. The girl gloatingly asked what had happened that she was lying so helpless and miserable on the floor of the estate. Cosette's eyes glowed a demonic red. Cosette tried to help her sister up, but she refused. She quickly avoided contact with the girl and ordered never to touch her again. Kira understood that she should pull herself together and calm down. The girl asked the guests what she was doing at this late hour in this part of the house, because the guests live in another wing and on another floor. The answer shocked her. Cosette replied that now she will live next to her. Her father let her share the third floor with Kira. The girl was outraged. She firmly assured that besides her, she no longer had any successors of the Fabric family who possessed the power of water spirits. Cosette came up to her and bowed low. Kira was scared. The new arrival, in a tone that did not bode well, promised that she would take everything from Kira and destroy her, taking everything that belonged to her. Kira stood stunned by such words, and Cosette passed by and went to her rooms. Both understood that now their ideas about each other are open and do not constitute secrets for anyone. The next day, His Majesty's deputy arrived. Everyone called this Mr. Joseph. The assistant was to report on the enchanted beast of the north. This information was important to the Duke. According to Joseph, the evil spirit did not pose a threat to the possessions and the population. A squad of knights was sent to confront him, but they asked for reinforcements and help. Herzog asked if there was a backup plan. The aide said that there would be an ambush in a nearby canyon. It is there that the beast must be immobilized and killed. However, if you destroy this place, then the emperor will be very unhappy. They did not want to displease the ruler. You can also use the nearby forest, but the mountains in that region are very dangerous. There's a huge possibility of landslides and avalanches from snow and mud. The duke's daughter decided to take the matter to another direction. She asked Sir Joseph how the preparations for the charity fair were going, and whether it is necessary to control the funds allocated for this event. In the corridor, the servants were very angry that the girl had taken over the functions of the head of the estate. Kira did nothing to get this position. She didn't even pass any exams to get this status. One of the maids said that all this is due to family traditions, which provide for the transfer of this title to inheritance. However, her interlocutor was not even going to listen to her. She resented such behavior. But in reality, such an order of things existed. Every child of the Farvis family, after coming of age, regardless of gender, held the post of knight to test their leadership skills. Lady did not understand anything about management. She will never be able to show herself in the role of the head of the Order of Knights of the Duchy. Everyone really felt sorry for Sir Joseph. After all, he has all the data to take the post of head of the knights. The women continued to discuss the events of the previous morning. Kira looked at everyone coldly. Her attitude changed over time, and at the same time, the true essence of this girl began to be revealed. The maid was sure that the girl was fake, but the real mistress arrived at their palace recently. All around ordered her to shut up, because nothing had really been proven yet. The woman did not give up. She reminded me to just look at the facial features. And soon, it will become clear to everyone that Lady Kira is not really the daughter of their lord. After that, many will want to trample her and deal with her. The girl heard their words. She stood behind the servants and asked if they were ready to suffer the punishment for their foolish talk. The maids in their mass were very afraid of the consequences of the conversation. They asked the head maid to apologize for her words, but she refused. She believed she was right about Lady Kira being a fake, and soon everyone will be convinced of this. Kira could not stand it. She made a lot of effort to keep herself in her hands, but she did not succeed. The girl slapped the maid. She did not expect this and fell to the floor. The girl assured that she was a housewife. It sounded like a threat and an order to everyone present. And Kira, as a hostess, had every right to punish and pardon everyone who lived here and served her and her father. Women hadn't noticed this behind this girl before. Finally, Lady Kira ordered the guard to take the unruly servant and lock her in the dungeon. And before that, it was necessary to give many blows with a club or a whip for science and understanding and learning the lesson of the disobedient. Cosette ran to her sister, who was watching the woman's punishment. The new arrival asked to stop the execution. In her opinion, there was no urgent need to use such methods. Kira replied that disobedience is punished. The girl added that the commoner, as she thought Cosette was, has no idea what rules exist among aristocrats. Also, she cannot interfere in this process without understanding it. The tortured begged Lady Cosette to save her. The maid had arrived with her, and now she was trying to save herself with the help of her mistress, who asked her to start the conflict specially. In the evening, the Duke returned home. Cosette ran up to her father and asked him not to drive away Mina, the maid, under any circumstances. She was not guilty of anything, but what happened was a simple misunderstanding. The Duke asked Kira what happened in his absence and if his daughter wanted to explain anything. The girl replied that the maid had disrespected her and told terrible things about her background and her mother. That is why Mina was punished. Cosette pretended that she was worried about the fate of the servant, who, on Kira's order, received 1,000 blows with a stick. But to top it all, Kira was going to drive the poor thing out and leave her without a piece of bread. The father asked Kira if she really sentenced the girl to 1,000 strokes of the stick. Such a punishment can easily kill any person, let alone a servant girl. There must be a good reason for this. The daughter told that the servant said very offensive things about her and her mother. She was not going to repeat them because they were very offensive, and one cannot forgive such a servant. Kira pointed to 2 maids standing aside and said that they were with the accused at the time. If you wish, you can ask below. These 2 also deserve the worst punishment. The servant fell to the floor. They said that their friend said nothing terrible. just saying that Lady Kira is cold-blooded and very hard to serve and please. The girl was indignant at the lie. It was a pure lie, but no one wanted to understand the situation. Cosette held on to her father and looked at her sister with scorn. She felt her superiority in this case and was not going to give in to her sister. At last, Cosette pretended to cry. Her father hugged her and asked if everything was really the way the servants said it was. Behind her sobs, she remained silent and pretended not to hear the question. Kira, meanwhile, was furious. She demanded that the maids tell the truth and not make things up. After all, they bore false witness to their master, the Duke. The girls said that they only heard this. The Duke said that Kira Farvis had become a real bane to his house if she dared to treat the servants of a guest like that. The girl asked to listen to her, because everyone around tried to slander and lie to her. Father did not listen to her. He slapped. It was very insulting to the girl, who was always trying to please him and obeyed everything he ordered. Meanwhile, the man shouted and asked how much more trouble she could cause. Kira asked her father to listen and understand this performance, but the Duke asked not to even call him father. It is unpleasant for him when it is she who says it. From today, she will be punished. The girl had to live outside the main house for a month. After the expiration of this term, she must not even catch His Majesty's eyes. Kira thought that her father's consciousness was clouded by something. Cosette approached her. The girl smiled wickedly. She asked if the father's opinion was so important in an aristocratic society. She added that she would like to see Kira given 1,000 lashes. Kira could not stand it. She grabbed Cosette by the shirt. The girl screamed and proved that all the troubles began after the arrival of the Duke's new daughter. It was she who conceived this play in order to compromise it. Cosette understood that it was necessary to get Kira out of her mind, so that she would grab her hair or hit her. Then the girl will sit punished for the rest of her days. The Duke has already made a choice on whose side he will be. Father was walking in the garden. Cosette ran up to him and asked if he wanted to be with her today. The man was silent. Somewhere in the depths of his soul, he was worried about the fact that he had done this to his daughter without understanding. Kira was watching it through the window. She saw her father and mentally forgave him. He had a lot of important things to do without it, so he had to leave soon and come to her to talk and apologize. Kira thought about how to prove her spiritual power and ability to speak with spirits. In this case, her newly arrived sister will lose her status in the eyes of her father, and everything will return to its place. The girl sat in front of the old bas-relief and tried to awaken her strength. She needs to do it as soon as possible. The strength should have manifested itself earlier than in Cosette. The girl begged the spirits of the ancestors to help. Energy was bubbling around Kira. She was delighted with it. A strange, until now unexplained feeling overwhelmed the girl. Now everything should be fine and will be fine. But it didn't happen as she thought. In the central hall, Cosette played with water magic. She screamed loudly and asked her father to watch her games with the water spirits. Everyone around looked at this action. Cosette told everyone how glad she was that Beatrice had given her strength on her birthday. Now, her father's people will be saved. It is important not to allow only the manifestation of chaos hidden in another. Kira reacted late to everything that was happening. People around demanded to punish the fake. The attitude towards the Duke's daughter has changed radically. Someone from the audience emphasized the expulsion of the lying bitch. The people demanded that she be dealt with before she summons a blood demon to her aid in order to destroy the lands. Some believed that she had been preparing for this moment for 11 years. This is how Kira ended up on the scaffold, sentenced by the Duke to the death penalty as a traitor and a sinner. This should have been her end if everything had really gone as planned. Her father was not going to protect her. The girl woke up in bed. It seemed that she had a terrible dream. She carefully examined her hands. The feeling of unreality still did not leave her. The servant was worried about the mistress. The feeling of having your head chopped off was so strong that it was hard to doubt that it was just a dream she had at night. The girl believed that she actually died, being punished for something she did not do. Kira was approached by her personal maid, Rose. The Duke's daughter thought they were both in the underworld, the world of the dead. The maid did not immediately understand what her mistress was talking about. The girl was sure that Kira had a terrible, creepy dream. Perhaps she was tired from preparing for the birthday celebration of young Master Zeke. The aristocrat did not immediately understand. Kira panicked. She still believed that she was in the afterlife. But why her maid and Zeke were also punished? It was unfair of her father to do this to people who were loyal to her. They didn't deserve it. The Duke's daughter recalled the moment when the boy came to her in prison. Then he simply asked her to tell him the truth about whether she was actually a servant of chaos and darkness, or if it was just a slander. Zeke offered to run away together. After all, if she hopes for her father, she will die. The boy was ready to become a criminal with her if they were caught. She replied that she did not want to frame him. Zeke resolutely replied that he did not want to live with these snakes in the same house. He is ready to do anything to get Kira out of this place. After all, everyone talks about her and lies about her. He promised that he would save her. Kira ran around the hall. She tried to shout to her friend. The servants around did not understand what was happening to the mistress, and the girl thought why all these people died. After all, most of them did not deserve it. Finally, she saw Zeke. He looked at his older sister, who ran to him. He didn't understand why Kira was so excited and why she was rushing to him. Did something happen to her while he was getting ready? Zeke looked closely at his sister. He said that her father would not be happy with the way she was walking around the palace. Kira wondered why her father also ended up in the afterlife. The boy thought that his sister had not fully woken up yet. He asked the servants to take her to her room so that she could take another nap. But to begin with, they will bring her shoes so that she does not run barefoot. The servants gathered around Kira, and Zeke stood. Everyone was wondering how she was feeling. All these people were very kind to her during her life, and did not even leave her when she fell out of favor with the Duke and the Cosette. Kira thought she had gone back in time. No one around talked about what happened. Nobody remembered anything. In addition, today's date indicated that it was her birthday and coming of age. Zeke noticed his sister's strange look. Her behavior frightened the young master. The girl explained that she had a terrible dream. Everything was so real that she thought she had entered the world of the dead. The sister said that she was most afraid for her brother. She is very glad that it was all just a terrible dream, albeit a very real one. Kira thanked everyone present for being with her. The girl offered to have dinner together. The boy was delighted with the offer. The maid asked to go to the hall while she would prepare everything necessary in the meantime. Zeke said she would have to leave early anyway. It is at such a time that Kira usually greets her father. This tradition came from childhood. The girl woke up very early, dressed nicely, and went to congratulate her father on the new day. She was a fool then. Now Kira thought about clinging to someone who didn't care about her. Her father did not pay attention to her efforts. Well, she won't do it today. If she was given a new chance, she would change many things. Kira decided that she would now only be with those people to whom she was truly dear, and who appreciated her only for what she was. An atmosphere of acceptance and mutual respect reigned among them. From that day on, the girl decided not to do what did not bring her comfort and prevented her from living a normal life. Many of her servants and loved ones deserved better treatment than they received. The Duke awoke from a strange dream. He dreamed that a white-haired girl was standing next to him, and everyone around turned against his daughter and demanded punishment for her for cheating. His Majesty was sitting in his office. The assistant studied the papers. The man asked the Duke why the young lady had not yet come to wish her father a happy new day. The father himself could not understand this change either. The assistant asked if the young housewife was ill. However, he remembered that an hour ago, Kira was running around the estate and talking with her brother and servants. He also asked if he should go find out what happened. The man also asked the Duke if he was not sick. After all, he looked very bad since the morning. He replied that he had a very bad dream, and now he still thinks about him. The Duke couldn't remember the details of the dream, but it scared him even now that it was all over. Sorrow was still on his soul, and an unpleasant bitterness haunted him all this time. You should just rest. Kira was in the library. She compared the current date with the events that took place in the spring. It was about 2 months before Cosette's arrival. The girl came to their house for Zeke's birthday. It is likely that in this way she tried to spread rumors and gossip about her throughout the empire. The power of the newcomer was manifested 2 years after her first appearance. But Kira was thinking about something else. She was worried that the strays had developed powers, while Kira had not yet at that moment. The oracle warned of the appearance of only one Farvas daughter with the power to control the water spirits. And maybe Beatrice changed her mind. Kira tiredly sat down on a chair. She couldn't do anything else. Thinking about why she had returned to the past made her very tired. Instead, one could record the events of the past and prepare. The girl thought that it is worth finding out first of all whether there is water magic, and whether it is possible to be transported in time at all. And was it possible that Beatrice could be mistaken? The maid knocked on the door and announced the arrival of the doctor. The servant explained that His Majesty was worried that no one had greeted him since morning. Kira felt funny. After all, she remembered when in her past life she asked him to help and save her from punishment. The girl said that everything is fine with her, and the doctor can go back. Kira was not going to waste her time on empty and frivolous things. Instead, she had important things to do. The maid asked if these matters related to the Order of Chivalry. In this case, she had to prepare clothes for her mistress. Kira thanked. She had a serious conversation with the assistant commander. The girl was sitting on a chair around the commander of the knights. The man conducted an exam for those wishing to join the ranks of the community. Kira saw the challenger in a past life and said he would pass the test. The commander was surprised. After all, she hasn't even seen him fight and perform power punches yet. The girl explained that she had simply heard a lot about this young man. You should be careful, because this way she will betray herself. Kira was never on good terms with Sir Joseph. The reason was that she took the place of commander due to being the daughter of His Majesty the Duke. Instead, the man specially prepared. He was very talented, and all his life he dreamed of taking this position. Kira was embarrassed that she was the one who became the commander. This caused arguments and conflicts between her and Joseph. After Cosette's appearance and sentencing, only Sir Joseph tried to protect the girl and believed that she was the Duke's daughter and Beatrice's successor, and that she was not trying to deceive or harm anyone. That is why Kira tried to be frank with him in conversation. She said she wanted to apologize to him. After all this time she was simply jealous of him. The girl asked to forgive her for taking his place. She promised that there would be no more quarrels and conflicts between them. The order will finally get a commander who will faithfully lead it to its goal and help the knights by personal example and advice. Joseph will become an independent commander, and he will no longer ask for permission to do something or manage the affairs of the order. The man immediately did not believe what he heard. Joseph's assistant came up and announced that the training was finally over. The girl said that it was time to convey to the community the news about the change of leadership of the order and to congratulate the applicants. Kira and the new commander stood in front of the knights. The new commander announced that a party will be organized for recruits and veterans on the occasion of joining the order. Everyone also congratulated Joseph on his new appointment. The girl reassured those present that she would no longer shackle them with her presence. Also, they will be able to rest and relax without fear of censure or anything like that. She had no bad intentions. Kira also asked not to be angry with her for not allowing them to rest earlier. In fact, the girl wanted to become better friends with them. But now everything will change. Everyone around looked at her in surprise. The long-serving knights immediately noticed a strange change in the character of the young lady. She continued to thank them for their service and promised not to disturb them again with her presence. It's time to go home. Soldiers and recruits did not know what to do. After all, they thought that the complaints against her had reached their goal. However, it will be difficult to hold back now, because if Kira decides to take revenge, it will not be easy for them. The boys believed that they had misinterpreted her orders and behavior. In fact, the Duke's daughter just wanted to become closer to them in order to understand subordinates and not create problems for them in the service. The commander made up his mind to go to Kira and apologize to her for the way they treated her. He will be an ambassador from the entire Order of Knights. The young men asked him to invite her to the celebration on their behalf. The commander was walking towards Kira. He thought until yesterday that the girl was more like a rose with thorns. But today, Milady really impressed him. The former commander of the order seemed to him changed. Kira came to her father to thank him for sending her a doctor. The man did not betray his habits. He said that he should not have come for this. He could have written a letter. The daughter added that this was not all. From now on, she promised not to come and greet him every morning. And now she was going to leave, so as not to distract His Majesty from important matters. The Duke was about to say something, but fell silent. He did not want to offend his daughter, but he lacked the courage to be frank. The girl asked if he had no more business with her. In this case, she is free. Finally, Kira announced her resignation from the post of head of the Order of Knights. All the soldiers and their new commander were aware of this, and had already planned a festive evening. The girl also added that she needs rest. In her opinion, 2 months was not enough for her, but the father objected to this. Such a term was too long. He believed that 1 month was enough for a girl. In any case, she wants to rest. Time was a precious commodity to Kira now. She was going to deal with all the questions she had in the past. The same will insist in every possible way on the fact that he will rest. And now the conversation is over. The Duke was left alone. He was still taught his daughter's official addresses to him. The man felt somewhat embarrassed by that his own child treated him like that. Remorse of conscience woke up. Kira thought about how her father lived after her death, how the fate of the empire and the population developed after Cosette became a savior and mage of water. For some reason, it seemed that she did not bring anything good. It was also interesting whether the catastrophe mentioned in Beatrice's prophecy had happened. The girl did not care much about the fate of Cosette and her father, but she was definitely interested in the fate of the people. The commander of the knights came to Kira. He wanted to ask her to come to the celebration because the boys think that they did not deserve her. And now no one doubted that her motives were the purest. Kira said she felt unworthy to be the head and commander of the knights. This place should have belonged to a person who deserved it from the very beginning. Joseph had the credentials to fill this position. The man explained that everyone around her treated her this way because of her own behavior. After all, what can you think about a girl sitting at a party with a serious expression on her face? Therefore, she was misunderstood. Joseph emphasized that traditionally, the eldest daughter of the family became the commander of the knights. And no one should prevent this tradition from starting to work again. Sir asked to point out the insolent one who denied this fact. The commander also added that none of his men thought so. All of them respected the girl and were ready to serve her as their predecessors had done. Age-old tradition ensured order, and she was to become a duchess in the future. And it was an honor for the soldiers that they were commanded by a duchess and a great ruler. The future of the entire continent and the safety of the entire nation depended on it. The knight also emphasized that all whom the girl defeated in a duel were glad to serve such a lady. She will not allow them to insult and humiliate the honor and dignity of soldiers loyal to her. All the knights liked her, but her behavior forced everyone around to behave quietly, and there was no time for nonsense. The girl replied that she considered such behavior unworthy of a noble young lady. The conversation was ending. Joseph asked what time to wait for the lady. After all, the soldiers have not yet given up on the idea of getting to know her better. They will look forward to it. Kira went with the commander. She believed that she had begun to change herself and her destiny. At last, she fell asleep from her eyes, according to which she must behave like her father in order to show her importance. It was noisy in the guest hall of the knights' camp. Everyone was partying and drinking. People stood in the middle of the hall and sat at tables. Everyone present was glad to see Lady Kira at the festive banquet. The attitude of the boys has changed. Joseph ordered another cup to be brought for the lady, and it would be possible to begin the act, which was always welcomed by the novices of the order. This ancient tradition helped to awaken the spirit of brotherhood and community. The girl who was accepted into the group of knights today, armed with a sword and a little drunk, showed a trick. With a blow of her sword, she opened the lids of the barrels that contained the drink. Everyone around rejoiced and congratulated the successful start of the evening. Kira was sitting at the table. All the knights gathered around. They welcomed her. The boy brought a large mug with a drink and assured that the girl had to drink for the success of the common cause. She blushed and took the mug. However, the young man took his own and showed her how she could drink properly. Everyone around again welcomed the future duchess and protector of the lands. It was indeed a ritual of friendship and trust that had been going on since ancient times. The girl drank her mug. A group of boys gathered around, demanding to drink with them in turn. Kira thanked for such attention, but informed that she was no longer their leader. Everyone looked at her in surprise. That girl soon explained that she decided to just take a break. And if the society agrees to this, then I would like to transfer the leadership of the order to Joseph, or arrange a vote on this issue. The society did not want to let her go from the post she held by right. However, they also did not want to go against the will of their mistress. Everyone calmed down and decided to rest. The knights did not want her to leave them. Meeting at the welcome dinner changed the impression about her. The boys insisted that the lady return to their ranks after rest. In this way, they will become a whole. Kira agreed. Again, those present raised their cups to the mountain and drank to the health of the lady and all the knights of the order. They sat until the morning, celebrating the acquaintance and replenishment of the ranks of the knighthood. People started talking about her father. This man scared everyone. He was always serious and too respectful. With this, he scared people away from him. And his anger always had sad consequences. Meanwhile, Kira thought that her father was not the only one who treated her badly. He hated everyone, or treated them like things. At one time, she even broke her leg on purpose, and he did not visit her in the room. Everyone around could not believe in such cruelty. Someone said that their landlady was too kind. But it is worth rebelling against the Duke to show that they are worth something and not just things to dispose of. Kira saw a new world, where you have to try hard to earn someone's attention or good attitude. She was ready for anything, except to specifically harm her father. The girl liked such a life and was happy. The Duke's daughter was tired. One of the girl knights promised the commander that he would take her to the estate. Joseph said he would keep them company for greater safety, for it was the darkest hour of the day. The commander led the girls and was now talking to a subordinate. He was interested in what the young lady was talking about. The soldier told her that they were complaining about the Duke. In general, the girl made a good impression on those present. The head of the order hit the red-haired boy. He sat down on the ground, but he continued to tell that no one thought of the Duke's daughter as an ordinary person. Thus, she appeared before them in a new image. The words about the girl touched Joseph somehow. He tried to calm himself, but it seemed to him that he was allowing a bad attitude towards the girl, and this could not be allowed. He also ordered the soldier to shut up. In the morning, Kira was tired. She asked the servants to cancel all her affairs. The girls asked if she sometimes got sick. The lady replied that she just needed to rest and gain strength. While the maids were helping to get ready, one of them said that today they could visit the library and search there for information about the water spirits that had interested Kira so much the day before. Kira decided to thank her for such diligent service and sent Rose, the servant, on vacation. After all, she had long wanted to visit somewhere, to travel. The girl was happy because she was not going to spend her life in this place. She believed that a person should have something more interesting, not just work. Milady agreed with her. After all, it was the sincere truth, and the girl's words resembled the language of a respected old man who knows a lot about life. This conversation inspired Kira to think about the existence of a parallel universe in which she was not the heiress of the ducal house of Farvis. She could be free and do what she really wanted. The lady asked if the girl knew about the lives of ladies from other noble houses. Rose replied that she only knew from books. She might recommend a couple of books, but her literary tastes differ from Kira's. Kira thought seriously about how vast the world outside her home was, how many interesting things there are around, and what you can see and enjoy. Last night made a hole in her worldview. The lady was sitting in the garden at a table full of books. All the information she found was already known to her. She asked the butler if he had ever seen spirits. The man replied that only the descendants of the Farvis family could see the spirits. The girl asked if there was any possibility for an ordinary person to see spirits. Robert promised to do it. Kira added that she was interested in this purely theoretically. After all, she should not have aroused suspicion. All her life she studied in this way. But her thoughts suddenly went aside. She thought how good it would be to make friends. She had no friends in her past life, and a new life gave her a chance to start over with a new letter. At all the holidays she attended before, Kira was always surrounded by her family. It was then that they could say that she was boring. Sir Arthur came to my lady. The boy brought a special drink that would help her cope with her hangover. The girl was very grateful, because she could not cope with this on her own. But she was interested in something else. The lady asked if he was actually very good with people. The guy assured that he has a lot of friends. Kira asked him to help her and teach her how to get along with other people. After all, it is so interesting. Arthur said that he thought it would be very good for her to make friends with girls her own age. Peers of the same age could tell a lot of interesting things for her. The boy guessed that she was alone all the time. The young man advised to smile more and be more friendly. Many are not against getting to know her, but it turns out that they consider her a hypocrite and similar to her without the emotional Duke father. Arthur continued. He said that Sir Joseph himself was of the same opinion about the girl. The guy advised to expand the scope of his interests. After all, you can't talk about protecting the empire and fighting magical creatures with your peers. but the young man assured that he should not force himself to do something. After all, you need to like the topic and not make you want to stop doing it. After all, the girl is actually interested in something. The girl thought that it was worth changing her life. It was not for nothing that fate gave her a second chance. Otherwise, it will be no different from what she had before. Everything around became more and more interesting and unique. The maid brought books for Milady in the evening. Rose warned that this book was very interesting, and therefore there was a high probability that the girl would sit with it until the morning. The story was fun and quite true. Kira was reading a story about a girl who was the daughter of a nobleman with little land. However, she had the opportunity to visit the capital. This happened thanks to her aunt, who successfully married a rich aristocrat. On the way, a miracle brought the girl together with the count. After arriving in the capital, they spent every day together and enjoyed life. But one day, something irreparable happened. The guy allowed himself something indecent. His hand ended up under the girl's dress. She was embarrassed and demanded to stop doing it. After all, anyone can enter this garden. But the count was not going to obey her. Passion raged between them. Kira threw the book on the floor. She was still afraid to admit what she had just read. Rose has brought an interesting book, but it does not befit a young lady to read such a book. The girl was furious that it affected her, but having calmed down a little, she thought that she could read one more page and then go to bed to rest. The day was supposed to be quite interesting and full of interesting things. The story said that the girl was already in the arms of Earl Graham. She hoped that the happiness would last a long time and never end. The young couple rejoiced in the love and feelings that overwhelmed them. Kira did not notice how morning came. She realized that she hadn't closed her eyes all night. She was surprised that she had spent the whole night on this story. Rose will surely be surprised when she learns that the lady read the entire book. The girl found the mistress in bed, tired. Rose said she was right about the girl not closing her eyes until she read the whole story to the end. Kiri felt very ashamed for some reason. She said that she was very interested in the moment when the boy and the girl stayed in the garden. The life of the main character was very interesting and full, what Kira could not say about her own existence. Rose said she has another similar story. She could bring it for her lady. Kira immediately agreed and said she would look forward to the book, but now she had to fulfill her duties. The maid said that the girl had no plans for today, and Kira could rest. But Milady said she had to go to the library and check the data she had recently acquired. Rose was smiling. The lady thought that the maid could now read her behavior like an open book. The girl was ashamed of it. But life was so short, and there were so many things that excited her mind that she could not hold back. Rose went into the room where the servant was resting. She immediately asked the girls where the sequel to the book about Lady Stella's adventures was. She ordered to find her at once, for Lady Rose was asking for a continuance. The servants could not believe that Kira was reading such literature. They were amazed that the girl asked for the main story, and now she is interested in similar stories and sequels about Stella. Academic books took a back seat. Rose just asked to borrow her a book. Milady definitely wasn't going to burn this piece. She is too interested in the life of ordinary people and wants to learn as much as possible about it. Even in the library where the girl came for information, she was reading a book about the adventures of Lady Stella. She was very interested in the girl's relationship with the Count, and with each page, the plot got more twisted. Kira pulled herself together. Time was short, and it should not be wasted on some nonsense. She concentrated on finding the right books about water spirits and anyone who could see and communicate with them. In the books, it was said that nothing was known exactly about the powers possessed by girls of the Farvas family. The power of the great goddess was taken for granted, believing that experiments and tests should not be conducted on her. Kira was bored rereading what she already knew. She heard the maids in the corridor talking about Stella and her earl. One of them said that there is a very similar book with a similar plot. The maids chatted about the fact that everyone really liked the story about how the Count and his beloved went to the garden to confess their feelings to each other. Many expected a more spicy sequel. Kira was listening to the girls, and she wanted more and more to join the girls discussing the coolest points from the book. But she was afraid to fall in their eyes and appear too stupid. But the reputation did not allow. The girl could not stand it and went to the servants. They were scared. They expected to be reprimanded for not doing anything. After a moment, they all ran off in different directions, fearing Milady's wrath. Kira walked along the terrace of the house. She thought she should have just said she wanted to talk about the book. Then the situation would be completely different. The reputation of the Duke's daughter prevented her from living. Always had to stay away from many things she liked, but she often couldn't admit it even to herself. Stiffness and congestion became her daily companions. Rose came out to meet her. The maid asked if her mistress had finished her work in the white folder. The girl had already started to tell the lady about the continuation of the story, but Kira interrupted her. She forcefully said that she was lying. Kira did not want to offend her friend. She said that she actually really enjoyed reading such works, but the girl was ashamed to admit it. Rose replied that she was glad when her mistress was well. They went for a walk together on the terrace. Their conversation lasted for many hours. Kira is very happy. She finally felt that she had become close to someone. You can say, even a friend. The Duke was on his way. All the servants gathered to see him off, but the husband was worried that he did not see his daughter anywhere. Before, she always came to say goodbye to him and wish him a safe journey. The butler reported that Milady was busy at the moment. The man informed the owner that the girl was studying literature related to spirits. She was interested in a very wide range of information about them. Herzog thought that she was worrying for nothing. In the descendants of the Farovas family, abilities were discovered by themselves. With these thoughts, the man fell down. Servants ran to help, but he ordered not to make a tragedy out of it. Meanwhile, Kira was looking out the window and saw a group of girls talking happily among themselves. She even envied this state of affairs. The girl hoped that she would also be able to join the band in the future. Milady remembered the moments from her past life when Cosetta got to them. The girl then had no problems finding a common language. Kira then tried to tell her to act like a lady, to which the sister advised not to go to her with her teachings, instead, not to act like a bore and not to get involved. If you follow Kira's line of behavior, there is a huge chance that you will remain single. The girl thought that she was really wrong all this time. Rose came to her and asked if the lady had finished reading the book yet. Kira replied that she would be free in a moment. Kira was now thinking about her grandfather. He was very cunning and always tried to turn Zeke against his father. However, his help in solving the case with the appearance of Cosette can be very useful. Within the family, Kira will not be able to find an influential ally, but you can turn to your grandfather when you have such an opportunity. The grandfather belonged to the mother's family, so she will meet him at the banquet. The girl wrote a letter to her grandfather. His name was Marcus Simon Edinburgh, and his granddaughter had invited him to a banquet. Whose husband will not miss the opportunity to come and spite his majesty, whom he did not love. Kira asked the servant to also bring all the letters that had come to her recently. Rose was happy. She said it was a very good idea to attend a banquet or a ball. After all, the annual meeting can happen at any moment. When Milady heard that it could be something similar to the events in the book, she became even more animated. Now she wanted to attend some special party or banquet. Life took on new colors. The Duke heard his daughter asking the butler about something. The servant replied to the young mistress that he no longer accepted letters of invitation, because all of them did not interest Kira anyway. But now there was nothing. The father found out the reason for the conversation and asked if the daughter really planned to attend such an event. Her behavior alarmed him more and more. Many of his daughter's traits were disappearing. Often, the Duke told his daughter that their family was blessed by the gods. Also, they did not have the right to intervene in any political conflicts, but to maintain neutrality in relation to all political troubles. The daughter listened to him and replied that she was just tired of sitting at home. The Duke saw how his little girl was changing before his eyes. Her character was becoming wayward. Everything that was before did not suit her anymore. Kira said she was interested in something more than sitting in a golden cage. The father replied that appearing in public could provoke a lot of gossip and rumors, which are not desirable for their reputation. He also wants to know what she is planning. The daughter said that he was only interested in business affairs, and she has reached the age when girls usually get married. The Duke was impressed by the offer to find a husband for her. His daughter had definitely not planned this before. Kira explained that she did not want to get married, but she wants to use it to go out into the world. It was a very good excuse. But the servants have already heard the words about the wedding and the husband and marriage. The Duke was angry. He was not satisfied that his daughter was trying to use such scandalous reasons to attend the banquet. Kira asked why he had become interested, only now that there was a threat. Finally, His Majesty ordered the butler to report to him on all the invitations and behavior of his daughter at celebrations and festivities. It is impossible for her to spoil the reputation of the family. The next morning, Kira sent a letter to her grandfather. A reception was soon to take place in the Frank family. They were always noted for being very hospitable and lavishly arranging evenings. Simon was supposed to visit there. Sir Joseph and Arthur were waiting for Kira in the yard. The men asked how she spent her time. The girl answered that she had a lot of interesting activities. Reading is one of them. Also, her vacation in the order is productive. She was not afraid to talk about reading novels because she no longer considered it a vulgar occupation, unworthy of a decent girl. Arthur suddenly asked if she had ever taken an interest in gambling. Arthur offered to go with him to the casino at the weekend. The girl was embarrassed, but she could not refuse, because then she would offend Sir Arthur. So she agreed. It should also be interesting and full of new acquaintances. Joseph said she shouldn't go, but Kira replied that in this way she would become even closer to the knights and become their comrade. The head of the order announced that he would take her under his care and protection. Arthur asked why then Joseph had previously turned down his offers to visit such places. The head asked his friend to shut up and not to say too much in front of Milady. They said goodbye. Kira was left alone. She began to think that alcohol, indecent affairs, and gambling would be the beginning of her end. But she realized that on the contrary, this is a new world that she is opening for herself. Unexpectedly, Sir Joseph returned. He gave the girl a bottle of elixir and asked him to forgive him for making her drink so much that evening. It really was unnecessary, and Kira couldn't remember anything from the evening. Joseph added that all the knights present were delighted with her. All in all, he thought it was a wonderful evening. The girl replied that she wanted the knight to always be around and protect her. It was good and comfortable with him. Viscount Shore arrived at the Duke's palace to help Milady organize a banquet. The woman was experienced in matters of this plan. Kira promised to obey her instructions and do accordingly. The Viscountess assured that the terms are limited and they should have time to cope with them. The girl understood that there was little time before Cosette's arrival, so she had to prepare as much as possible for her appearance. But after yesterday's conversation, her father began to follow her even more. Also, she will not be able to send a person to the magic tower. The woman noticed that the girl was nervous and reassured her that everything should work out. The Viscountess felt sorry for her son, who is constantly sitting in the magic tower and doing his experiments. In this way, he avoids contact with the environment. This worried the mother very much and made her uncomfortable. Kira realized that this was her chance. She said that lately she is also interested in magic. She is especially interested in spirits and their appearance among people. Also, she would be glad to visit the son of the Viscountess. The woman was delighted with such an offer. She promised to quickly organize this meeting. Finally, her son will be in the company of a young girl and will be distracted from his research and experiments. She thanked Kira. The girl rejoiced at such a fall. Spatial temporal magic was very complex. The woman said that her son was very talented. Also, he could help her with the issues she was dealing with. The maid brought a book for my lady. The girl was happy because it was a continuation of Stella and the Count. The servant was embarrassed in front of the mistress. That lady calmed her down and called her by name to calm her down. Hearing that the Duke's daughter named one of them, the other girls started to come out as well. Kira asked them not to hide, but to behave freely. The lady asked to tell the girls about the book before that. How will she read it? The maid said it wasn't exactly a story about Stella. This is a new work in which it is said that a simple servant girl meets a prince who falls in love with her, and in time she becomes an empress. Kira believed that this could not happen in real life. At the moment, however, the maid said that their mistress might as well attend balls where she might find her beloved husband or prince. The Duke's daughter never thought about romance. The maids hinted to her that the main task of a noble girl is to find a wealthy husband. But Kira had not thought about such a thing before. Reputation was above all else. These conversations pointed to a perspective that could lead her to a completely different world. For the young housewife, it was something like a fairy tale, the story of Stella and Earl Graham. For a girl of her age, this is simply a miracle. The servant asked if Kira would really be going to the banquet. In this case, they can help her with clothes, and she will show them her clothes and jewelry. For the girls, it was a chance to fantasize. Talking about common interesting things for them relaxed the atmosphere. There was a cheerful, warm atmosphere around. The girls and their hostess became close, finding a common theme. They will develop it further. Kira let them help Rose with the preparations. That way, they will all meet in her room and try on dresses and jewelry. The girls asked how Kira would manage now without a boyfriend. One of the maids assured that a girl without a groom would not be alone at the banquet. There would be a lot of young, handsome gentlemen who would invite her to dance. It was also written about in books. The girls hinted that Kira could take one of the knights as a partner. Boys will love to keep her company. Many of them are very interesting personalities and will not allow her to be insulted or humiliated. In the middle of the conversation, Kira was approached by Joseph and Arthur. They apologized to the girls for having to take my lady from them. The boys replied that they would be away from the palace for a short time on business. The Duke's daughter understood that a new, rich life was beginning for her. The old, quiet existence was no longer for her. She was interested in the world with all its beauty and entertainment. There was only one life, so don't spoil it. The girl could not calm down that she was going to the casino with the knights. She was glad, but she was afraid that someone would tell the Duke about it. Dad will not be happy with this and may even make her stay at home. Zeke saw her when she was almost out of the house. The boy asked where she was going at such a late hour. The girl thought that her brother felt lonely in this palace. She felt ashamed. Kira felt sorry for her little brother. She offered him to go for a walk together. The boy was very happy. It was really very boring for him to be constantly in the estate, and his father did not let him go out. When the company was already riding in the carriage, Zeke learned the real reason for their walk. The boy protested and asked how they managed to involve his sister in this adventure. He was surprised when Kira defended them. The girl said that the casino was actually authorized by the Duke himself, and they won't bet, or just take a walk to learn more about the outside world and look around. Joseph asked the girl how she was doing. She replied that the surroundings were much cleaner than she expected. The partner said that she can visit the VIP lounge, but then she will reveal her identity to those present. Kira noticed that her brother and Arthur were gone. The knight led the young master to play roulette. The knight said that Arthur usually played roulette right away. Now he wanted to teach Zeke and play. The Duke's daughter decided to play. Her brother tried to stop her, but the casino employee was already explaining the rules of the game to the girl. Kira replied that she had already come too far and couldn't give up trying. The girl won. This made her very happy and gave her hope for the future game. Zeke tried to stop her, but his sister dragged him into another room where there was more to play with. The knights did not try to call her. After some time, the whole company stood in the hall and watched the young lady win. They asked what exactly the girl would spend her considerable winnings on. The knight girl offered to celebrate good luck. Arthur was worried. He explained to Zeke that such success was actually very suspicious. Although the newcomers are lucky, the Duchess won too much money. This cannot be simply ignored. It was then that an employee of the casino approached them and handed over a letter from the manager of this institution. It was about a proposal to play on a much larger scale. The girl refused the offer because she didn't want to risk it. The Count offered to play in something smaller, so he is ready to just play in the VIP room and not spend huge amounts of money. It was very interesting. Kira thought that everything was becoming very similar to some kind of romantic story. The girl assured her friends that she was ready to play, but would do it carefully. She is responsible for the entire company, so she can't just spend all her money like that. Kira hoped to feed her friends dinner. The servant brought Kira to the owner of the casino. The man asked the Duke's daughter if this was her first visit to such an institution. He went on to say that he had been following the lady and noticed that she was having a lot of luck at the game. The owner offered to play cards for money. The girl replied that she didn't know anything about it, so she wouldn't be against an interesting pastime. The man assured that they will not bet on the first game. In this way, he wanted to see if she was really that lucky. When Kira laid her cards on the table, the guests around her were stunned. She won from the card dealer the first time. The man assured that she was really lucky. Kira's friends could only watch the exit, on the part of the owner. Most likely, she won him a very large amount, and now he will try to get the money back during the game. They worried about her. The girl herself noticed that the owner of the casino was strangely holding on to the sleeve of his jacket. Although she was a novice, she had heard of cheaters who hid cards in their sleeves in order to trick their opponents into winning. At that moment, the Count approached the card player and embodied his face in the gaming table. The young man assured that he would not forgive the deception by which the owner tried to win and return the lost money. The Count could not allow this. Meanwhile, the Count knelt before the lady and kissed her hand. He asked to forgive him for such behavior. He did not want to frighten Milady. But he couldn't let the swindler deceive her and extract money from her. Kira completely forgot about money and deception. She was enjoying the moment. It was very similar to the date night from the novel she had recently read. Kira could not answer the young man. This had never happened to her before, but now she felt awkward and embarrassed. Zeke asked his sister to finally get out of this institution. Joseph insisted that he prepare the crew for the trip. The Count invited the lady to share a cup of tea with him. The girl told her friends that she should stay a little longer and spend time with this cute Count. Doll. Also, he helped her and saved her from a swindler. Zeke resisted this decision. He couldn't let his sister go with some stranger. The company also began to quarrel. Arthur excused himself that he had not thought of such an easy agreement on the part of the lady to visit the casino. Kira thought about meeting such a cool gentleman. The Count seemed to have stepped out of the pages of one of the novels she admired. They were sitting at the table and talking pleasantly. The meeting started well. The young man's name was Castro. He was amazed by the girl's beauty. She was extremely beautiful, and he was attracted by her manner. The guy actually noticed her from the beginning of the evening. He and his friends were standing at the bar and talking about an interesting girl who came in with the knights and the little boy. Aiden and his friends came to the conclusion that the girl belongs in such an institution. Her behavior and mannerisms showed that she was not used to this kind of thing. Most likely, the stranger was brought up in a very strict family. Such girls were more attractive to Castro than those who know too much. Aiden asked the girl if she was ready to meet him this weekend. During the conversation, he showered her with compliments and sweet words. Kira was confused and did not know how to respond to such appeals. The night girl remembered where she had seen this dude. He was not from very decent company. He often tried to divorce girls and rich heiresses for money and to enrich himself in every way at their expense. He didn't care about his reputation. Aiden touched Kira's shoulder. Zeke was very angry. The friends had to hold the little one so that he would not lash out at the young man, who, in the opinion of the lady's brother, allowed himself too much, and his behavior was too free. Joseph asked the returning girl if she had not been insulted by this stranger. She answered in confusion that she had no time for frivolous conversations, and the Count simply threw the dust off her. Kira talked about the fact that he offered to spend the weekend. Since she found him very pleasant and sweet, she agreed to his proposal. He could also become her partner at the banquet. The Duke's daughter thought that this meeting could be a sign of fate for Kira's life to change in the future. With such a handsome man, she would like to meet and have a certain relationship, as in a novel. In the evening, Kira took a bath. Rose was helping her, and the girls were talking about the ladies' meeting with the Earl today. Milady told the servant that he was very sweet and handsome. The friend was surprised that the lady behaved so easily. However, Kira reassured her, saying that she had not revealed anything about herself. She even hid her true identity. The girl behaved like the daughter of a poor aristocrat who came from the countryside. Rose looked at the hostess strangely. She asked what happened, but the servant remained silent. In fact, she thought that it would be difficult for a lady who grew up in a rich family to pretend to be poor and change her habits. Kira said that she had made an appointment with him this weekend. They will just have lunch together. But she was interested in what they would do later. Milady asked Rose for advice and help. The Duke's daughter asked if it would be possible for her to rent an entire theater for the weekend. Rose replied that a poor noble could not do such a thing. Instead, the lady asked to tell what to do in that case. The maid advised to take a carriage ride or use air transport to explore the capital. Poor aristocrats and common people often do this, and thus amuse themselves for lack of funds. Kira thought that a date in the air would be very romantic, but she was stopped again by Rose. She asked if Milady could stoop to that level. After all, she is used to everything expensive and high quality, but Milady thought only that there would be a lot of people there, and she wanted to be alone with the gentleman. Then no one would interfere with the two of them. Therefore, Kira decided to rent a boat for the whole day. Rose noticed what was happening to her mistress. The girl was frightened by such a change in character and a certain obsession of Milady. She was not behaving as usual. It was even possible to use the word inappropriately. The next day, Kira was walking in the garden. She thought about the feeling she had for the Count. The girl thought that it could be love. Joseph noticed her in the garden. He decided to go over and talk to Milady. The lady plucked a flower from a bush and attached it to Sir Joseph's form. She laughed out loud and said it was time to go about my business. The young man wanted to talk to her again, but she left him. Comrades approached Joseph. They asked if it was really their lady. The girl's behavior has changed dramatically. She became a completely different person. Has their young mistress fallen in love with someone? William said that the reason could be her acquaintance with that young man in the casino. Enraged, Joseph asked not to spread such thoughts among the people. After all, it was just a casual meeting that would not turn into something serious. The head of the order asked the night girl what she had heard about Castro, but she told about the bad fame that spread among people about this type. None of the normal girls or women were messing with him. The young man had a reputation as a gambler and a womanizer. His thoughts were only about money and enrichment, and former partners of this type often suffered from the consequences of this acquaintance and regretted it. Joseph said they had to prevent disaster from happening. It is worth learning now about all the details of the meeting on the weekend. Friends had to save Milady from hasty steps. You need to find out the details about the date. The day of the meeting has come. Kira dressed as Rose told her to. The girl advised the lady to dress modestly because the poor did not have enough money for expensive clothes and jewelry. Although the lady tried to be beautiful, the Count saw the girl. He called her. Kira moved with the help of movement mana. The young man was surprised and thought about what he thought. It was necessary to stop using alcohol and drugs with such consequences. Castro began to compliment the girl. She listened to him attentively and increasingly detached herself from reality. It seemed to her that she got into a strange novel that she had read before. Her friends were watching her from the bushes. They tried their best to stop the Count and prevent him from hurting the girl. The lady's reputation was not to suffer, because then her father would severely punish her for disobedience. Arthur offered to press on this little guy. In this way, he will quickly learn that you should not touch a girl. But Zeke assured that these are not their methods. They can't act openly so as not to distract Kira. The boy thought it was necessary to get this young man away very quickly, before his sister fell in love with him and became attached to him. Someone offered to catch him not flirting with another girl. The conversation was quickly stopped by the company as Kira and her suitor went to the restaurant. It was impossible to lose sight of them. At any cost, they had to save their lady from this brat. For this, it is worth concentrating. Castro took her to a restaurant. He told the girl that it was the most expensive place in the capital, so it was very expensive and very difficult to book that table. Kira remembered all of Rose's advice not to embarrass herself. The girl's behavior somewhat surprised Aiden. The lady behaved as if she came from a rich and wealthy family. Her manners had changed since their meeting at the casino. However, the attitude towards commoners was natural. The girl asked if the gentleman was ready to meet next Wednesday as well. Castro replied that he would be happy to do so, but he had an important and responsible meeting with the people scheduled for that day. In fact, he was going to meet and take advantage of another girl. Therefore, he could not agree to a meeting with this simpleton. The young man assured that if it were not for the meeting of the literary circle, he would be happy to see you again. Aiden assured her that today she would be completely his. Now is the time to talk about future plans. Kira offered to take a ride on an airship and see the sights of the capital. Castro did not want to ride on airships, so he wanted to justify that they only go according to schedule. The girl assured that she had already rented a vehicle. The Count choked on his tea in surprise. Kira assured them that they would arrive right at the door of this establishment. An airship waiting for its passengers could be seen in the window. You shouldn't waste time, but you need to get down to business. Castro thought about how much money it would take to rent the royal airship completely. Even a rich nobleman can't do it. The girl surprised him more and more. The young man even thought that this girl could belong to the imperial family. In this case, it is dangerous to play such games with her. On the other hand, wide prospects opened up before him. Kira assured that the gentleman could not worry about the fact that someone would interfere with them, because all the people who wanted to ride were told that the transport was being repaired. The Count thought she was very influential. The boy turned pale. The Duke's daughter asked if he was all right. The young man was forced to admit that he is afraid of heights, and this walk worries him a little. Kira said that in case of danger, she would save him. Kira's friends looked after the departing transport. Some were surprised because they had never seen the girl smile like that before. A strange feeling came over Sir Joseph. It was something like jealousy. A night girl helped him. She suggested that next week's ball be arranged in such a way that the Earl would show his true nature. Then Kira will be convinced that she was mistaken and reject him. The young man will definitely not resist flirting with the girls and women present at the banquet. The task of the friends will be to follow the Count and Lady Kira. Joseph assured that he would do everything. In the evening, Joseph approached Kira and offered to go to the banquet with him the following Wednesday. The girl replied that she already had certain plans for that day. The boy was upset because he thought that he was unworthy. Milady agreed that she should go with him to the ball. Sir Joseph's reaction surprised her. However, she justified herself with the fact that the circumstances were like this. If Castro had it her way, she would go with him. The head of the order thought about the way Kira smiled when he spoke to her. He really liked the girl's smile, and he couldn't do anything about it. She was much nicer than anything with him. Joseph hesitated for some reason. He thought that the reason for the joy was meeting that dude. The young man very much doubted that he would be in charge that evening, and wondered if he had made hasty conclusions. Even the maids who served Milady noticed the changes that had happened to her lately. Kira herself realized that she feels more joy in this life than in the previous one. She will not suffer anymore. The lady decided that even Cosette's imminent appearance should not make her life difficult. She won't let anyone else ride her and drive her. Now Kira will fight back all the attacks of her new sister. At dinner, the maid asked if Kira had thought of going on a date with the Count she had met at the casino. Milady thought it was inappropriate to talk about such things during dinner in the presence of her brother. Zhukov became interested in what exactly impressed his sister in that young man. From her words, the maid and the boy understood that she had fallen in love with the Count's appearance. Thus it became known that she likes handsome men. The brother was impressed by Kira's words, who had already started talking about the possibility of officially introducing Castro to His Majesty. It is possible that everything will end with a wedding and a successful family life. Zeke felt embarrassed. The Count went to the main transport office and asked the clerk who had rented the airship on the day he was walking with that strange girl. The employee replied that it was confidential information. His answer further convinced Castro that he was dealing with no ordinary girl from an impoverished family. The conversation of the two ladies next to him convinced him tiredly that his passion was not from a simple family. Aiden began to fantasize about how he would be punished for insulting this lady. He will sit in prison, and she will mock him and abuse him in every way. Jokes with this girl could end badly. There was a strong possibility that she actually came from the Emperor's family. The young man began to panic. He replayed their entire date in his head to make sure he hadn't offended her. In his mind, the guy asked the higher forces not to meet that girl again. Their meeting the next time could end in his death or exile somewhere in the far reaches of the north of the continent. Duke received a message from the Transportation Bureau. It said that he had to pay the bill for the airship rental. The man thought that someone had mistakenly sent a piece of paper to his address. The butler said that it was Milady who asked to deal with the document. The father did not want to believe that it was his daughter who was engaged in something similar. Why did she need to rent an entire airship? The man suddenly remembered himself at her age. He also felt that his position and background, as well as the demands of an impeccable reputation, constrained his actions. Therefore, I decided to pay the bill from my treasury. Dvoretsky thought it was his duty to tell about the young man with whom His Majesty's daughter rented a car for herself after dinner in a restaurant. And for a certain time, they rode together, without anyone. Herzog realized that the girl was behaving so strangely because she had started dating a boy. He recalled the conversation about the wedding that had recently taken place between him and his daughter. It seemed that everything was getting out of control. The father decided to go on his own and check what his daughter was doing. The butler offered to call Kira, but the Duke was sure that he wanted to visit her himself. The servant was surprised at this. The maids helped Kira get ready for the banquet. When asked who was the favorite designer of the Duke's daughter, the girl replied that she knew good sword makers. In the middle of the conversation, the Duke came. He asked to leave him alone with his daughter. It was about the transport office and the invoice received from it, so he had to learn something about this situation. The father assured that it was not that the bill was small. Despite everything, he had to know everything about what was happening in his daughter's life. Kira thought that she should resist in this situation and not allow herself to be offended. Herzog said that the real reason for his visit was the information that Kira had started seeing a man. The father was interested in whether she was actually in a serious relationship. And what did she know about her partner? A terrible thought crept into the girl's mind that now her angry father would forbid her to attend the invited banquet and the meeting with her grandfather and Sir Joseph, whom she had already promised would not take place. Kira got up from the table and said she didn't want to talk about it anymore. After all, at her age, it is not necessary to talk about such things with her father, but the Duke wanted to ask more about the reasons for the changes in her character and what contributed to this. The daughter let it be known that she did not want to talk to him anymore. Therefore, she politely said goodbye and asked to leave her alone. Her father left her room. For some reason, Kira felt guilty. She also noticed that the father himself had changed. Some of his actions now were not characteristic of him from his past life. The Duke also thought about his daughter, remembered her childhood, and how happy he was then. The maids admired how beautiful Milady was. The dress actually suited Kira very well. The girl said that in such a dress, she would easily become the object of attention around her friends. Cavaliers would definitely go to her. Kira was afraid that she would be at the banquet alone, without family members. Her grandfather should be there, but this is not enough in her opinion. The girl herself believed that she should find allies in every possible way to oppose Cosette. Milady noticed Sir Joseph. The uniform suited him very well, Kira thought. The young man was amazed that he saw Milady in a dress for the first time. He even lost the gift of speech. Sir added that Kira would overshadow the goddess herself. Despite all the beautiful words they said to each other, Lady Kira asked to hurry, so as not to be late for the invited banquet. Cavalier supported her. The evening was supposed to be rich and pleasant. The guests were surprised when they saw Lady Farvis, who came to such an event. The organizers did not expect that she would respond to their invitation, but it was nice to see the descendants of this family. The girl and the gentleman approached the organizers. They greeted and introduced themselves. The couple made a good impression. The girl was confused because she did not know what to say next. Sir Joseph came to the rescue. He advised to go out on the terrace and breathe fresh air. Milady hadn't attended such events in a long time, so it was no wonder that she was nervous and a little tired. The guy really suggested that she go out into the yard and get some fresh air. But Kira insisted that she was hungry and wanted to go closer to the tables. Joseph offered to bring her food. Kira watched with pleasure as the group of girls discussed the tears of the goddess. Kira and her family also owned them, but she was afraid to interfere in the conversation so as not to spoil the atmosphere of rest. One of the girls noticed that Kira showed attention to them. They stood up from their seats together and begged to be forgiven for their unworthy behavior and the fact that they had disturbed my lady's rest. Kira assured that there was nothing wrong. The girl felt alone among these people. A servant approached her and told her that Sir Edinburgh was waiting for her. Kaya tried to find Sir Joseph to warn him, but he was nowhere to be found. Kira was taken to her grandfather. The grandfather said that he was very happy to see his grandson, but he should get down to business right away. The girl asked if it was true that the Duke had another wife before her mother. And did they have a child? The man looked at her in confusion. He asked if this was the reason for their meeting. Kira asked if it was possible for the Farvis family to have a fake, who, according to the prophecy, could easily communicate with spirits. The girl saw that when her grandfather talked about her father's wife, he was hiding something. That woman really couldn't have children, and she was really kicked out. But now he could not reveal anything to his granddaughter. In a past life, he had been among those who had defended her innocence to the last, and that she was not involved in a conspiracy or attempt to deceive the people, or worse, create a disaster for the entire continent. As Kira stood on the scaffold in the crowd, before her father on her knees, Edinburgh warned that they would all come to regret their decision. But then, it will be too late. And he was not someone who just threw words to the wind. The girl asked to find a storage place for her, away from the capital. Grandfather did not understand what she meant. When he asked why, Kira replied that she would reveal the secret when he told the truth and confessed. The man asked if she was afraid of any punishment for the misdeed. If this is really so, then she may not worry, because any of her actions will simply turn a blind eye, because she is the Duke's successor. Kira thought about the moment in her past life when she witnessed the appearance of a spirit in a cell. The girl wanted to believe that it was the truth, and not just a hallucination. Her words seemed unconvincing to the grandfather. The granddaughter said he should also care about her and her situation. After all, she was the key to his future power. When Kira becomes ruler, so will her mother's line. The man promised to help. The next time they would see each other was at Zeke's birthday party. That's when they will discuss everything in detail. And now it's time to return to the hall, so as not to offend any of the aristocrats present. Kira was happy. Finally, she will have a certain hiding place for herself in the event that events begin to develop, as in the past life. You can escape to this place and wait and develop a plan of action. In fact, the girl hoped to expose Cosette and have her executed, but the plan can fail and not go as planned. In any case, she will not be so helpless. Kira's friends caught Castro red-handed. It was at this moment that the young man was flirting with the girl he had seen for the first time. It was necessary to quickly find Joseph and bring him with Kira so that she could see all this. Joseph tried to find Milady, but she was not there. The young man began to look for Kira, but she was nowhere to be found. The friends were nervous because they could lose the opportunity to reveal the true essence of Count Castro to a girl in love. The company ran to look for Milady. Right now, they might be at a loss for the most appropriate way to reveal the truth to Kira. Finally, they were able to show, at least with gestures, where her lover was. Kira noticed him next to the girl, whom he was passionately hugging and whispering something in her ear. The Duke's daughter appeared behind the boy like a ghost. Castro was scared. He immediately thought she was going to put him in jail. The girl immediately asked what Castro was doing in this place. He said that he would not be able to attend the evening because he would be presiding over the literary experts' dinner. The harsh truth was slowly dawning on Kira. The Duke's daughter threw the Count to the ground. The girl he was hugging immediately ran up to him. She was amazed at the power Milady possessed. But Castro was not up to that now. He thought about the future. Kira tried to hit the boy. Her friends restrained her, because the force of the girl's blow could easily kill an ordinary person. Also, she could not reach the young man for her own good. Friends took care of her. After his friends called Kira, Aiden realized what he had done. There were 4 princesses on the continent. He already knew the account of one of them. She was the heiress of the Farvis family. She controlled the water element. The young man realized how serious a mess he was in. Aiden thought of an excuse. He said his meeting had been cancelled, and that's how he ended up on this evening. That is, he did not lie and did not deceive anyone. And for the girl with whom he was walking in the garden, he saw no point in apologizing at all. He was not lovers with Lady Farvis, and was not in any relationship. Also, she could not have any claims or demands towards him. Castro added that one date does not mean anything, but Kira, who had it first, could not tell him anything. She seethed with rage and hatred for this liar and deceiver. She felt ashamed. The night girl said that in this case you can beat the scoundrel. He broke his word and tried to deceive her by not saying anything about having an affair on the side. Kira hit him. The Duke's daughter was upset that everything happened like this. Now she will not rest and relax because of this scoundrel. But hitting his handsome face was a very good idea. This idea disturbed the girl. She wanted to beat this bastard even more. That night girl brought her mistress's shoe and asked him not to beat the young man again, so as not to cause trouble. Kira was worried that she had done that. When the girl moved away from the shock, she thought that she had behaved like that for nothing. The worst thing could be the grief caused to her and her father's reputation. The Duke will definitely not forgive her for this. Joseph came to the rescue. He asked to give him a dance, because the banquet was not over yet. As for the cavalier, my lady could care less. This is not a problem with her beauty. The girl felt embarrassed. She said that she had not danced for a long time, so she could trample all the young man's feet. But he assured that everything will be fine. All around the aristocracy looked at this wonderful couple. Kira danced Joseph and was infinitely happy about it. This very scene now seemed to her to have been taken out of some romance for girls, in which it will be about love and strong feelings that will end in a wedding. The next day, Kira was thinking about the consequences of the evening. She agreed with her grandfather about the storage outside the capital, but she could not talk to him about the secrets of the family. She also lost her first love. The daughter of the Shore family visited Kira. Her name was Daphne, and she would stand in for her mother in the preparations for the banquet or soirée held in honor of Zeke's young master. Daphne and Kira were sitting in the Duke's daughter's office. The girls finally made a menu and an approximate schedule for the so-called banquet. Shariv's daughter saw concern on the face of her interlocutor. Kira thought that she would be ashamed to admit that she did not understand fashion. But on the other hand, she can disgrace herself even more. But it's time to change your life and not live in your past. The girl asked Daphne what they generally said in high society about the Duke's daughter. And at the same time, she asked me to talk about the current fashion and all the new products that are popular now. And she asked for advice on how to make friends. Daphne explained that last evening the girl did not manage to communicate with anyone because usually at such events everyone is already divided into groups. In order to get to know each other better, it is worth having a tea party. Shore thought to herself that this girl was actually very lonely. She did not expect this, but being born as His Majesty's daughter is not a very good fate. This entails complications in the sphere of personal life. Kira said that it is very difficult for her to establish contacts with strangers. She is always afraid of something, and when she starts to speak, she panics because she is afraid to say something superfluous or the wrong thing at all. Daphne reassured the girl. She liked Kira, and therefore she organized a tour of all the fashion trends of their time. Daughter Shore has long been engaged in organizing banquets and various celebrations. Kira remembered Daphne's brother. It was from this young man that she was going to learn certain aspects related to magic and spirits. But as it turned out, he had a lover, so she might not have appreciated the visit that way. The Emperor's wife looked at the letter received from Milady Farvis with surprise. It said that the lady would attend a banquet and a ball. The organizer could not believe that this would really be the case. Prince Mikhail Dilk noted that there must be a reason why this girl, after several years of imprisonment and ignoring social events, decided to attend their event. His sister was supposed to follow this person. Arabella replied that she would rather cancel the tea party now. But the brother assured that the Emperor would be glad to bring the family closer to him, which kept neutral and also possessed a powerful army. But the sister did not consider it necessary to listen to him. Instead, she recounted the events of a past banquet attended by Lady Farvis. From the beginning, Kira glared at Arabella. After a few words of conversation, Kira said that the princess was making too much noise. The girl burst into tears and ran away because such behavior was too rude for her. She was not interested in the conversation. The brother said that the girl made the opposite impression on him. That evening, they chatted very nicely and talked about many things, more typical of the conversation of two old friends. Boys. Arabella was furious. She thought that only her daughter had ignored the Duke. She was surprised how rude people can be that despise. Besides, after Arabella's wedding, her status was supposed to decrease. The prince hinted that, for the sake of the family's interests, he should make a second attempt to approach Duke Farvis's family. Bella promised that she would do everything in her power. However, she is not ready to say anything concrete now. The butler came to the Duke. He told His Majesty about Kira's secret meeting with her grandfather. The denunciation also talked about the beating by the daughter of the Duke of Count Aidan Castro. In addition, there was talk of a meeting on the terrace. The servant also added that the girl was going to take part in a tea party organized by the Emperor's daughter. After that, the Duke ordered to call his daughter. I had to tell her something and advise her. The man thought that he was trying to justify himself. It was difficult for him to look into the eyes of danger or worries for his daughter. Kira was changed beyond recognition. Exactly 2 days have passed since visiting the banquet. But now nothing new could visit her in relation to everything she saw before her death. This surprised her. She was happy and afraid of it at the same time. She had already guessed that information about water spirits would be difficult to find. After a long search, she almost did not move from a dead point. The investigation was also unsuccessful and close to zero. The last thing left for the girl was a meeting with her grandmother, who also possessed the gift. Joanna Farvis was the only one at the moment who really knew how to cooperate with spirits and keep them under control. When Kira was little, her grandmother often explained to her that the girl would be a great savior of all living things, and her strength would be incredible. No one can surpass her in skill. They also walked in places inhabited by water spirits. The woman taught her grandchildren not to be afraid of these creatures. They by themselves did not pose any threat to people and their comrades. It was on one of the walks that the girl saw the Beatrice crystal. It was an extraordinary phenomenon. This could not be forgotten. Memories of this accompanied her even in her current life. That's how much they were imprinted. Kira thought that if she had the chance to see the crystal again now, she would immediately master her powers. But by the will of His Majesty, the Duke, Joanna was now in exile in the capital. Dvoretsky approached the girl and informed her that her father was waiting for her in the office. Most likely, the man said, the Duke would be inquiring about the details of the banquet and wondering where else she was going now. The girl realized that her father was more concerned about how to maintain neutrality than her personal life. Therefore, she walked without fear and knowing in advance how their conversation would end. Kira is sure that they will quarrel. The father was sitting at the table and talking about the fact that he wanted to talk about his daughter's attempt to arrange a marriage. Kira thought he was mocking her and warned her not to play with her. The Duke admitted to his daughter that he, as the head of the Farvis family, could not love children like ordinary people. However, he is ready not to interfere in Kira's affairs so as not to prevent her from building a future. The girl did not expect frankness. The father said that the girl can do as she sees fit, but now she should not harm the family's reputation. Kira was grateful to her father for his care and permission. Current life was getting better. Kira added that she would like to see her grandmother. The father said that the woman has been very ill lately. She's already many years old, and on top of that, she now has a severe form of asthma. Also, visits are inappropriate. But Kira insisted. She wanted to talk to her grandmother at least one last time. The father said that the old woman would be very happy to see her grandson. He also ordered Robert to arrange a meeting and provide a trip. As the girl walked down the corridor to her room, she thought about her mother's father. It was his answer about the secret of their family that could finally shed light on the question that was of great interest to her. But the old man did not give up. Even then, little Kira was amazed by his thirst for power. It seemed that she could not be around, because all the conversations were about power and influence. The little girl did not yet understand the scale of the problem. In the palace of the imperial family, preparations were being made to receive guests. The talk revolved especially around Lady Farvis's visit. This has not happened for a very long time. And the last meeting made Bella very sad. The princess was nervous and even wanted to cancel everything at the last moment. But finally, the guests started arriving. Kira made a good impression on everyone present. She was not ready to communicate with someone right away. Fortunately, Daphne was always with her. It was she who could suggest something to her friend at a critical moment, and Kira herself did not give the impression of the one who was usually talked about. The princess invited everyone present to meet the special guest who had arrived for the tea ceremony. He was a handsome young man. His name was Joshua White. The girls immediately liked him. The young man knelt before the princess. He said that he usually avoids such companies, but for the sake of the emperor's daughter and her unparalleled beauty, he is ready to change his priorities immediately. The princess asked Milady Farvis which composition she would prefer to hear performed by the guest. The girl named her favorite work. Joshua was happy because he himself loved this piece of music and played it well. Everyone around was talking about Joshua's masterful performance. Kira sat in silence. Some considered it a sign of arrogance and reluctance to communicate. However, the princess thought that Farvis should have obeyed her in any case, but in general, Her Highness asked Milady what was the reason for such an important and pleasant visit. After all, for many years the heiress of the Farvis family did not attend such events and did not rest in public. The girl honestly answered that she decided to socialize. One of the young ladies asked if it was forbidden in the Duke's family. To this, Kira replied that it is difficult to be among the same people all the time. And as for getting to know the opposite sex, it is impossible to solve such issues here at all if you are constantly sitting at home. Everyone around perked up because the topic turned to a rather spicy side. When everyone talked about marriage, it was clear that all the ladies at the table had been thinking about it for a long time, but were very afraid to speak openly on such a topic. Milady Farvis changed the subject. The girls assured Kira that she would find a worthy husband and live a happy and fulfilling life with him. The princess asked everyone not to pester Lady Farvis with any more questions, because she would be offended. But it was late. Daphne realized that she had made a mistake when she allowed herself to speak freely about the Duke's daughter's marriage and love. This could have a negative impact on the reputation of the Farvis family. When they said goodbye, the princess invited Kira to rest. The girl thanked and assured that she had a very good time. She was ready to repeat such meetings more than once. Kira didn't notice when a piece of paper fell out of her pocket, on which she had written down all the fashionable things she had talked about with Rose and Daphne. Her Highness took that piece of paper and read it all. She was surprised. The Duke's daughter was ashamed. Kirat and Arabella were sitting at the table. They decided to communicate honestly and not try to show off to each other. The girl admitted that she is not well versed in modern fashion trends. The princess realized that these were actually hints for the Duke's daughter. Otherwise, she would not be able to speak freely on worldly topics and discuss things with the girls. Kira felt ashamed that she had not been informed. The princess asked why the girl didn't just tell the guests that she had no idea what everyone was talking about. In this case, it would be much more fun and pleasant to talk about what interests you, and it is better to look for a husband somewhere at balls and banquets, and not at girls' gatherings. Takra replied that she was afraid to attend banquets because she did not know how to maintain a conversation with people. She spent her whole life in the estate. Arabella understood the girl. Now she no longer felt what she felt before they met. Now she felt sorry for this poor thing. Bella decided to help her in this matter. In this way, they will become friends. This is exactly what the brother meant when he spoke of his sister's mission to the Farvis family. Arabella will make sure that Kira does not become a laughingstock or the cause of many gossips of the aristocracy. Kira said that she really liked the atmosphere of today's event. She was delighted to communicate, but the fact that she was very afraid spoiled everything. This inconvenience prevented her from relaxing and resting. The Duke's daughter added that she was constantly worried about the fact that it would spoil everyone's mood and spoil the atmosphere around her. The girls could take offense at her and start gossiping and spreading rumors about ill health. The princess emphasized that many people are put off from meeting Kira by her constant facial expression. You can't be too serious and collected all the time. It's simpler, and people will reach out. The girls' meeting ended with Arabella getting sick. Kira said that Her Highness should rest. They can continue the conversation later on the next visit. The princess liked Kira. This conversation revealed many things from their past lives. These insights made it possible to look at each other in a new way and to understand what exactly bothered them personally. Bella is happy with the tea party. That girl could not rest properly. The prince entered the room. He asked his sister how everything went. Bella recounted her conversation with the Duke's daughter. The young man said that there is common sense in this. Arabella replied that Kira was actually a very different person than she was commonly thought of. Gossip largely exaggerated her negative aspects. The brother mocked that the sister liked Favris, but it was good. She had to get as close to that girl as possible. This was not only beneficial for their political position, but also for each of them personally. The meeting with the Duke's daughter had an effect on Bella. Daphne ran up to Kira. She asked how everything went. The girl replied that she had a very nice talk with Princess Bella. Lady Fruz also spoke about the note, which became the reason for the heart-to-heart conversation. Daphne listened carefully and told her that she had something very important for her friend. It was an invitation to the annual reception at Shore Manor. The lady was obliged to visit him with the gentleman. Shorev's daughter did not listen to her interlocutor. She fantasized that it was at this ball that Kira would find her love and her future husband. It would be really beautiful and romantic. At night, the Duke was looking for something in his office among a pile of papers. There was nothing there that caught his attention. The man tried to remember where he had taken that letter, but it was very problematic. The next time Kira also went to the ball with Joseph. Everyone around was delighted with this beautiful couple. The daughter of Shorev believed that she had summoned the most handsome young men and men of their lands. Daphne said finally that the lady should just let her know who she actually liked. Joseph wondered how the girl herself felt about such a proposal. She replied that she was only interested in her friends. Kira met the princess at the event. Arabella invited her to meet her friends. The Duchess happily agreed to this proposal. She was happy that she would get new friends and join the team. Kira met Lady Bella's company. The girls had a good time together. The Duke's daughter felt so good for the first time. She liked to be the center of attention, but now she wasn't thinking about anything. Her brother approached Daphne. The boy asked if she would explain to him who the mysterious stranger was. The sister asked why he decided to leave his tower and attend the reception. This has not happened for a long time. The brother did not pay attention to the sister, who began to tease him for the fact that there was no news from him for a long time. And the boy was actually more worried about Lady Farvis, who was also almost at the ball for the first time. When Daphne showed him Kira, the young man couldn't help but comment on the girl's beauty. His sister could not understand his delight. After all, before he showed interest only in science and magic around the world, it seemed to the young man that he had met a girl before. He decided to go and test his guesses. The sister did not want to let him go, but he threatened to deal with her magically and punish her for disobedience. Behind Kira stood the son of the Shore family. He asked why she came back but never found him. The girl was surprised by his appearance and words. However, now she began to guess something. Memories emerged from his past life about the boy casting spells before his execution. He tried to save her because he could freely move through timelines. That is why he sent her to the past. Now the sorcerer was glad to find her safe and sound. Only the place in which they met was strange. In her past life, she was not observed to behave like this. She behaved more modestly. The flashbacks of her past life made Kira feel sick, especially the last time Cosette decided to visit her. Sir Joseph ran up to the Duke's daughter. He asked if everything was okay with the girl. The stranger surprised him. The head of the order ordered him not to get too close. And you'd better watch your manners, or you'll have to deal with him, the head of the Order of Knights of House Farvis. The girl asked to leave her with the young man for a while. Kira and Shorev's son went to the recreation room. It was not possible to talk calmly in the hall. Joseph said he would be around the whole time. The girl was worried for some reason. She was embarrassed in the company of this man. When they were together, Shore said that he was the one who brought her back to the past. Thanks to his magic, she preserved the memories of the past in order to change the present. He used to be afraid to play with magic. Shore asked what was the last thing she remembered from her past life. Kira replied that she remembered the day of her punishment. The boy was upset. He tried to make sure that painful experiences did not interfere with her. The young man spoke about the fact that no one had officially studied spatio-temporal magic, but he independently mastered this wisdom. The girl asked why he wouldn't tell anyone then. Then he would have received the title of Great Sage. He was confused by only one detail. The caster will never remember what he did in his past life. That is why it is difficult to learn this magic, because the past experience very often disappears. The girl asked to tell in more detail about this magic. The young man replied that it is not very nice to ask a magician about such a thing. Kira said, "What she has the right to know, because it was she who tested him." The boy could not withstand her interrogations. She had a right to know, because full-fledged magic of this type requires the presence of two people. Only this second present will be able to preserve the memories of the past life. It is the second person who often chooses his memories as the main ones. The same knowledge of the future makes it possible to change many events. And then the person who was transported to the past tells everything to the spellcaster in detail and honestly. The girl assured that she did not consent to use herself and to be a test subject. Shore himself chose to preserve her memories because there was no other option to save her. She was the savior of the continent. Both decided to speak honestly after that. Instead, the girl asked the interlocutor to name himself. He said his name was Eris Shore. He also wanted to ask Kira to show more respect for him in public. Eris said that he was a real mage from the tower, so now they will see each other much more often. And it is necessary to come up with a legend that would justify their meetings, which will now become frequent and long. The young man assured that when she needs any help, she can safely turn to him. The sorcerer promised his help and support. After all, their families were old relatives and were friendly to each other. The girl was going to leave his company. Eris asked if she was afraid of what others would say. Instead, Kira replied that they were waiting for her there. Shore thought of the young man who had protected the Duke's daughter. Kira explained that it is very bad to leave your partner alone for a long time among strangers. She will leave the room first. Eris wondered why she was so hostile and unfriendly towards him. The girl reluctantly told Joseph what the hell was going on in the room with Eris. She said he was a time mage, and they talked about it. The chief did not like the excuses, but he remained tactfully silent. Kira asked her boyfriend not to tell his father about tonight. He was not supposed to know about her secret communication with the magician from the tower. He was often seen as having certain oddities in his behavior, so it had to be a secret. The girl also thought about the fact that she had to keep the secret about the past and the future that the sorcerer had revealed to her. This may have offended Joseph, but it did not bypass the more important side of life. The next day, the Duke saw everything in the newspapers. Photos of his daughter and son of the Shore family were placed there. His Majesty was very angry when he saw this. He did not know what to say to his daughter for this. A maid was already waiting for the girl. She reported that she had packed all the things and they were ready to be sent. Zeke asked his sister why everyone was talking about the possibility of her wedding. Kira assured that in reality everything is not so. Everything was about to change soon, and the question of her wedding would be the last thing people would talk about. Kira wondered if there had been any letters from the Shore family. The servants were thus convinced of the truth of the gossip. Zeke asked his sister when she would be back. The girl assured that she was not going to stay as a guest for too long. The boy wished her luck and a quick return. He also asked to say hello to his grandmother. Kira was riding in the carriage and thinking about how quickly time passes. The moment was soon to come when Cosette arrived. Before that, it was necessary to prepare and find out more information about spirits and communication with them. Joanna Farvis hosted her granddaughter. The woman missed her very much. The girl was happy to visit, but immediately admitted that she had come on business. Kira asked about the possibility of seeing water spirits. Joanna said that seeing spirits is the skill of spirit conjurers. She was skeptical about everything else. If it was all very easy, she would have known a lot about it long ago. The woman said that almost half a century has passed since the moment when her abilities were awakened, but she still cannot tell anything concrete about it. The girl was upset. If the grandmother did not know, then the matter is difficult, Grandma reassured Kira. She said that past spellcasters often like to stay in this house, and they left something behind. Among all the treasure were also personal research records. Joanna led the way to a room where among the vast number of books were the personal records of ancient water spirit conjurers. The data has been accumulated for centuries and has been rewritten more than once. The condition of using this library was that Kira could only use it alone and not tell anyone anything about this place and the information she found here. She was otherwise free. The woman emphasized that it could take several days. Kira replied that she had warned close people about her separation for a certain time. But as expected, the girl already knew a lot of information from other sources. It's time to finally use the spellcaster's personal records. The diary of one of the descendants of the family was the first to come into his hands. It was about that. How the abilities woke up in her younger sister. The girl was very worried about the fact that the spirits were supposed to be much more beautiful than anything she had seen in her life. But her abilities did not manifest themselves for a very long time. Parents began to get nervous and worried. Finally, the time came when rumors began to spread that she was not his real daughter. For this, the Duke punished the impudents who dared to say such a thing in the presence of his daughter and other subjects. Only the sister helped the girl endure this suffering. Over time, even the father turned away from his daughter and became more distant to her. Very few people came to her defense, although they understood the delicacy of the matter. Mother and father began to quarrel very much. The girl was worried that this could cause the family to break up. She began to wonder if she might not actually be the only daughter with powers. The atmosphere in the house was cool. The girl thought that she was worthless, because she was very worried about the fact that she could not awaken her powers to life. Sometimes she didn't even want to leave the room. The poor woman even began to fear her father. He admired her sister, whose powers had awakened. When Eva, her sister, finally came to wish her a happy birthday, they held hands. The energy has awakened. The girl told her sister that she saw something, but she answered that these were the spirits of water. They both turned out to be conjurers of water spirits. They were supposed to work in tandem, not stand out and compete. Kira remembered the last night in the dungeon. It was then that the same thing happened between her and Cosette as with the heroine of the diary. The energy then spread through the air. There were strange spirits-like creatures around. This strange phenomenon among magicians and sorcerers was called resonance. It consisted in strengthening the abilities and strength of each of the possessors of extraordinary skills. At the same time, part of the spiritual power was transferred. Only the Farvis sisters could resonate. However, this often happens only for a certain moment, and then it can stop for a long time. Sometimes it may just seem like a dream or a vision for a moment, but after that, a moment suddenly comes when the abilities are awakened. The impressions from this are very large and difficult to control. They can even go out of control for a certain time, scaring everyone around. Thanks to the help and support of my sister, I was able to cope with this problem and reject all suspicions and accusations. The father was proud that his daughters became friends and became a symbol of faith and salvation. Kira was happy with this turn of events. Now she relaxed and decided that everything should be okay. The girl could now dismiss all doubts and not pay attention to them. She really saw spirits that day, but she was also interested in whether her powers would be able to awaken if the execution was postponed to a later date. The punishment and arrest itself were sudden, and no one expected that her fate would be resolved at such a pace. Perhaps Cosette planned to take revenge on Kira and her relatives from the beginning. Expelling her mother might have been a good reason to do so. The families of Cosette's father and mother also fought a lot, and only recently calmed down. The Wine family was destroyed by Marquis Edlenberg all at once. The Farvasov family had considerable involvement in this, which provoked the girl. The one who started it was her grandfather. His lust for power caused this. Count Weinberg tried to surpass the Marquis in political terms. He could not allow this, and just let His Majesty go. So he decided to punish the claimant's family for revenge. Cosette's motives now became clear as she tried to cast her in a negative light. The girl sought to humiliate her and make her guilty of all the troubles that befell them. Prophecy helped in this. The oracle foretold the appearance of one spellcaster, but Kira was able to see the spirits only because of her sister's help. So Cosette was also the real daughter of His Majesty the Duke. In Kira's opinion, something strange was happening. She couldn't understand many things, and as if the answers received actually raised even more questions. Grandma helped to reveal the main secret of their family. It was a few hours before the start of the banquet in honor of Zeke's master. Rose assured her that there could be no delay, and also that Milady should prepare for the evening. Kira was taking a bath surrounded by many maids. The girl felt embarrassed because she did not tell her grandmother about the resonance. She was afraid that this information might not be true, and thus she would deceive and mislead her grandmother about it. But Joanna, when she understands everything, will help the girls create a resonance and awaken the power equally in both of them. Kozetka will definitely discover this ability in herself earlier. Events cannot be allowed to develop as in the past. In fact, there was no other option than to wait and rely on time to resolve these issues. Now could be a decisive stage in the development of her story in this life. Such an opportunity could not be missed. Zeke ran up to his sister and said that he was amazed by her beauty. The girl replied that you can't be late even when it was his birthday. This could be seen as a bad tone. The guests considered it an honor to be present. Everyone around bowed and greeted the prince. Kira did not leave her brother for a single step. She also received several congratulations and tons of compliments. But a lot of things seemed fake and fake. Grandfather also came to greet the prince. He said that he could not help but come to the birthday of his only grandson. But the guests were more surprised not by the presence of old Edinburgh and his courtesy visit. A man whom no one had seen for a long time entered the hall. He spent more than 20 years in isolation, and just now decided to go out into the world. It was hard for everyone to believe that this man had come to the Farvas on such a day. The stranger said that he had started living as a hermit long before the prince was born. That is why he had not met him before. The man's name was Count Isaac Weinberg. The Duke's ex-wife was his sister. The ladies and gentlemen around were talking about the fact that the Weinberg woman had been kicked out of the kingdom in disgrace. She could not have children, which greatly displeased His Majesty, who wanted descendants. Thus she became an exile. The meeting between Cosette and Kira was about to happen right now. The girl gave the impression of a very sweet and pleasant girl. Kira's sister said that she was very happy to see her family after so many years. Meanwhile, Cosette asked the prince if she could talk to him informally, since they were close relatives. Meanwhile, Uncle Weinberg said that he is giving Zeke the most precious gift, his family, but the boy was against such a turn of events. He ordered Sir Arthur to throw these people out of the house and drive them as far away as possible, so that they would not disturb anyone with their presence. The knight was confused. He couldn't lay a hand on the Duke's heiress. After all, when the Duke himself learns the details of this case, he will not be happy that his daughter was treated this way. But it is also necessary to prove that the newly arrived daughter. Finally, His Majesty arrived. The girl appeared before him and said that she was his daughter by Lady Rowena. Also, it is very nice for her to see attacked after so many years of separation. However, the man was not frivolous. He perfectly remembered the details of why his ex-wife was driven away. But there were already rumors about the fact that the wife was accused in vain, and she was not really guilty of it. The girl was similar. An ordinary girl could not stand the views of the aristocrats of the state, and even her posture was similar to that of the royal family. At the same time, many began to doubt her true origin. Grandfather Edinurg was against such an appeal to the Duke. He believed that there was only one heir in Farvis, which was mentioned in the prophecy. And this girl was Kira. She could not be anyone else. Cosette asked for a chance to prove to everyone present that she was really her father's daughter. Kira could only observe this, because everything was repeated exactly as it had been in the past life. The girl thought that it would be foolish to worry about it again because of what had already happened to her. Now, she will be ready to fight back against this provocateur. But how to deal with her further remained a mystery. The old Marquis demanded proof. He was willing to put his own life on the line, but not to let himself and everyone present be deceived. The man who brought Coesta asked what evidence Lady Kira herself would show. In this case, both girls were on equal terms, at which the grandfather got angry and was sure that everyone saw how this child was born, and the wild woman, who was brought to the palace by her husband, could be trusted by anyone. The Duke acted wisely. He didn't want to spoil his son's birthday celebration. The man replied that this was not the place to find out. Everyone should calm down and keep celebrating, and they'll figure it out later. Kira was surprised. After all, there was no such situation in the past. Events unfolded differently, as she hoped. Her father saw surprise in her eyes. She definitely didn't remember that. It seems that the Duke is up to something. It seemed that he guessed something. But this simply could not be. Only she and Shore used magic, and no one could remember anything about the past life and its details without the spellcaster's permission. Zeke was enraged by the appearance of these people. He told the crows to get away and not spoil the rest of his holiday. Security has not yet been able to expel these liars, but something had to be done with them. The stranger assured that it was hard to believe now, but the day would come when they would thank him for helping reunite the Duke's family. But Zeke did not believe a single word of the man. He was definitely not going to continue the conversation with the new arrivals. Cosette pretended that she did not understand anything at all, and that she had not done anything wrong. The girl promised Kira that they would meet again, to which the Duke's daughter replied that it was definitely not up to the strays to decide. The boy was furious at the thought that his birthday, for which he had prepared so carefully, was ruined by these bastards. He was hostile towards them. Kira understood that now was the best time to attract the attention of all the aristocrats and nobility, but surely no one was going to tolerate them. Father should have chased them away from the threshold from the very beginning. A descendant of the Shore family approached Kira. He said that the girl should be more cheerful because this day is her brother's birthday. But the Duke's daughter did not understand the guest's positivity and did not share it. The boy said that his sister is sick, so he can give the letter to her. Kira said she knew a lot about him. The sorcerer was surprised at such interest in his person, but Kira assured that nothing like that. Shore replied that the girl had not heard such false gossip about him. After all, the magician really spent little time in the capital. He lived most of his time in a magical tower, but now it is worth talking about the new sister. When Kira pointed to Cosette, the boy realized that she was familiar to him. From the expression on his face, the Duke's daughter realized that he also knew Cosette. But the magician denied it in every way. He did not want to confess, but Shore heard from people that this person considered herself another daughter of His Majesty. Kira talked about a situation from her past life. There, Cosette accused her of being a fake. This had fatal consequences. Kira was trying to find out something about this girl, but nothing was written about her past, even in the archives of the Duke himself. A stranger appeared from somewhere. Everywhere it was said only that 2 peasants found her in the mountains and hid her. She lived in their house all her life, and now her own uncle decided to present to the Duke and get what was rightfully hers. It would be nice to find something about Cosette's past, but the girl now doubted this. Information about it was either destroyed or classified. Shore bent down and asked to listen to him, but Kira pushed her away and asked to keep her distance. The young man asked if it was because there might be new rumors about the girl's affair with a new suitor, but she explained that it was nothing like that. It just tickled. Shore obeyed, but finally warned that his intuition as a sorcerer indicated a bad aura and energy emanating from Cosette. The girl thanked her, but even without the advice, she would have stayed away from her. Cosette wanted to take the place of the Duke's daughter, and this was a personal insult for Kira. She could not just let this happen to a girl who dared to lie to her and slander her, call her fake. The next day, the maids were already discussing the news that had spread around the estate. They were looking forward to the girl's resemblance to the Duke. But in the prophecy of the oracle, it was only said that the daughter was to be alone. Kira was going to her father. She could only guess at the reasons for this call. Rose was worried about her mistress. The heavy atmosphere in the estate was transmitted to the people as well. Everyone was nervous. The Duke's daughter assured that she does not doubt her mother. She was not a person who, for the sake of wealth, is ready to deceive her husband and take advantage of his position in society in her own interests. The Duke was sitting in his office. He thought that Prince Weinberg would not have lied to His Majesty and said that the daughter was really his if he had known that it was not true. There was no doubt about that, but the man felt a certain restlessness. He tried his best not to worry about what was being talked about in the palace. He didn't want to frame Kira either. After all, everyone saw the fact of her birth. Kira entered the office. She greeted, but kept cold. The girl wondered if her father had already made a decision. The man invited her to pass and sit down to talk. His Majesty remembered Cosette's eyes. For a moment, he thought he saw her in that terrible dream. Now he didn't know what to do. He thought he wouldn't be too strict with Kira. But how will she behave this time? The father asked the girl how she felt about what happened at the banquet. Kira was surprised, because her father had never asked her opinion on anything. He explained that it directly affects her. Kira answered honestly. She said she didn't like being discussed behind her back by the servants and everyone around her. But so far, she cannot stand against Cosette. But she could already possess the power of spirits. The girl decided to observe the events from the right angle so that the past does not repeat itself this time. She replied that whatever decision her father made, she would not dispute it. Kira has made it clear that she trusts her mother completely and has no doubts about who her real father is. The Duke replied that he would accept Cosette temporarily, but he won't try to hurt Kira. He asked his daughter to tell now if something does not suit her. The girl agreed with his decision. After all, now it was the most optimal way out, so as not to spoil the reputation permanently. The past is unlikely to repeat itself. The father looked carefully at his daughter. It seemed to Kira that he was studying her and wanted to hear something more from her. That girl had nothing to say. Now she will keep herself submissive, but will not allow herself to be offended. Zeke hurried to his sister to find out what she had learned from his father and to hear his decision. The boy was completely on his sister's side. He will be faithful to her to the very end and will not betray Kira for anything. The boy said that the girl could completely trust him. He guessed that his father's answer had greatly offended his sister, and now he was the only one who could help her calm down and compose herself after the conversation. Kira once again spoke about the fact that she completely trusted her mother. This woman had a good reputation among the aristocracy and subjects. She could not deceive anyone for the sake of her well-being. The boy proposed to do so and behave as if Cosette did not exist. She should not spoil the relationship between them and their father, as well as the fact that the subjects will begin to doubt, because someone spread gossip. Kira asked if Zeke believed her and was willing to keep a secret. The girl suggested not to react negatively to Cosette. They should behave naturally and treat her as a guest for a short time. A group of Kira's friends approached her and asked how she was feeling. Rumors and gossip about what happened at the banquet are already reaching them. Joseph asked not to be sad, because someday the lie will be revealed. Kira had no doubt about it, but now it was much easier for her because of the fact that she was supported by the knights. In the past, everyone had turned their backs on her, and it was even worse than being sentenced to death. Morally, it was easier for her now. But gossip among the servants spread with catastrophic speed. She already noticed that some of the girls looked askance at her. It was clear that Cosette is not acting alone. She has assistants. The day came when Cosette was to arrive officially at the palace. The butler advised the young housewife to go and greet the girl first. She did not understand the reasons for such behavior, but she believed that it would be a good start. The newcomer was impressed by how well she was received. Kira assured that the Farvis family always welcomes guests in this way. Otherwise, the honor of the family could suffer. The girl asked the guest to always tell the truth. Cosette assured that she would use her advice. And now she will prepare to receive the Duke himself. It should be expected that she will stay here longer than a day or two. The reception will be long. The girls shook hands with each other. Cosette asked her new sister to take care of her. The Duke's daughter promised that she would do everything in her power. The servants noticed the tension between the girls. They were afraid. Kira's memories are transferred to her past life, to the events of the execution. Joseph reported to the chapter that the restoration of the ruins of the old castle, which suffered from the rebellion, was negatively evaluated by the emperor in the capital. The girl assured that in this case it is necessary to quickly conduct work and prepare. The garrison was to occupy the fortress in the near future. She even allowed the knights themselves to be involved in the construction. The fortress was supposed to be ready by the next month. Joseph explained that it's actually not that simple. Kira was furious. She asked if her words meant nothing to him. The guy assured that everything will be done. The young man thought that the princess had changed a lot lately. Most likely the reason was that Weinerg brought that girl to the Duke's palace. Snat was wary at first, but then she accepted a new one. The girl was too similar to the Duke to doubt their common origin. But the knights were not going to swear by impostors. They couldn't believe that they had so easily accepted the stray and thought of her as a princess. In his thoughts, Joseph didn't notice that he was following Princess Kira the whole time. The girl asked how long he intended to follow her. If his report is finished, then he can go to his headquarters. With their appearance, Weinberg and his niece turned Kira's entire existence upside down. They only talked about the fact that she was not really the Duke's daughter. Many turned away from the young lady. Joseph could only imagine how much had been thrown at the girl lately, and how she was reacting to it. Only the Knights of the Order, who did not doubt their mistress and her origin, remained faithful. Suddenly, the head noticed the lady who was training. She injured her hand from the careless performance of the feint. The young man rushed to help, because the wound could be very serious and have dire consequences. The public talked about the Duke's wife cheating on him, but now a new lady has appeared, who is very similar to His Majesty in appearance. No one was going to miss Kira or feel sorry for him. Now the girl snapped at Joseph. She didn't think that he was actually ready to listen to her and try to console her somehow. Kira didn't need it, she thought. She was angry now. She asked why he was looking at her so strangely. He knew very well that Kira was not the type to cry and wash herself with tears at the slightest opportunity. The Duke's daughter assured that she would handle everything on her own. But suddenly, she changed her mind. The girl raised the sword and said that it could do something for her. Joseph will be her sparring partner. This will allow the girl to relax and release the tension that has accumulated recently. The knight hastened to assure her that he would follow her to the very end and would never betray the oath given to her. All the knights of the order she led will do the same. The girl replied that she had no doubts. Kira ordered him to raise his sword and prove the truth of his words with deeds, not words. The young man replied that he would gladly give Milady an opportunity to deal with the anger and nervousness that had taken over her recently. Sir only wondered if she could fight him on an equal footing, since her arm was damaged. The girl replied that she was not going to repeat it twice. She pounced on him with a sword. Weapons crossed in the air. Joseph did not take their duel seriously. The girl tried in every possible way to get close to him. Finally, she asked if he was so safe, because she was no longer the head and had no influence over the order. The girl attacked again. Sir Joseph could not understand, but this duel made him remember the good old days. The two of them seemed to have become much closer to each other. He hoped it wasn't a hoax. Arthur ran to Joseph. The young man excitedly reported that Milady had awakened the power of spirits, but it was about the newly arrived lady. Kira was now in her own room and was not old enough to accept anyone. The Duke's daughter was sitting in her room. Joseph came to visit her. The girl refused to eat for the last 3 days, and for the last day she did not even drink water. You can't treat yourself like that. The head of the order was ready to cry. He asked the young lady to start eating and to get a hold of herself. The main thing for him was that nothing happened to her. The young man was ready to raise even a rebellion against the new arrivals. When he left the princess's room, Arthur asked how she was doing. The boy wanted to believe that the Duchess would get better. She is not ready for such upheavals, but she has loyal companions and knights. As predicted, Curie was sentenced to death. Joseph was talking to Zeke. The boy was not going to obey his father's will, and he hated the newcomer. In a short time, she caused so much trouble and grief. The boy was indignant that with cheap tricks she had misled even his father and taken Kira's status and title. And now she is trying to take her life as well and deal with the innocent. Joseph asked the boy to calm down. After all, many people were watching and following the young owner. He could not afford such a luxury. It is worth cooling off the dust and making thoughtful, sober decisions. The head of the order decided to personally talk to the Duke about the situation. The man did not meet him with hostility, which instilled faith in the success of his business. His Majesty was ready for a compromise. Herzog said he knew the reason for Joseph's visit. But nothing can be changed now. The Farvis family can have only one daughter. And Cosette demonstrated her strength in front of the entire aristocracy of his possessions. The father calmly informed that it is impossible to go against the prophecy. After all, they have all the evidence that allows His Majesty to impose the death penalty on Kira. Joseph believed that this could not be allowed. He appealed to the fact that the girl herself did not know anything about whether she possessed the gift. Letting it die could spell disaster in the future. The people and the Duke himself may regret it later. The father replied that his goal was the safety and protection of the lands of the empire, and that is why he is ready to sacrifice his daughter for the sake of a high goal for the well-being of all lands and millions of subjects. The young man understood that if you thought coldly and without emotion, you could understand the Duke. The girl of the Weibergs discovered the power, and the oracle pointed to a disaster from a false daughter who had no power. Joseph couldn't let Lady Kira die. He offered Zeke to run away with his sister. They were to hide together in a secret vault. The chapter will develop a plan in the near future. Zeke asked why the knight was doing this. He replied that all the knights of the order swore to my lady to protect her and help her in everything. He will also find a map and prepare everything necessary for the trip and for the first time. Sir Joseph has prepared a route for the fugitives, by which they will be able to reach their destination unobserved. Also, the housing will have everything necessary for refugees for the first time. The young owner will have the key, but the princess refused to run away. Zeke was upset. She believed that their struggle would be meaningless, and Kira did not want to spend her whole life as an exile. She also did not want to frame her brother. Joseph understood that Milady had been under the pressure of her title all her life. That is why she did not want to be disgraced and make sure that no one could find fault with her improper performance of her duties. Sir wanted to serve Kira all his life. He swore that he would always be there and help. And now he felt powerless because he could not force the girl to do what she did not want. Besides, he missed her very much. Joseph took off the order with which Kira had awarded him at the time. He kissed him and asked fate to be kind to his lady. If he could turn back time, he would do everything possible. Many letters have been addressed to Lady Kira. Zeke was amazed that so many people wanted to meet and be friends with his sister. She herself did not want to doubt it. The grandfather wrote to the girl that she should have been attentive to von Jurg and his girl child. The old man himself was also going to follow them to find out the details of everything that was happening. He was outraged by this attitude. The girl noticed a letter from Shore. She asked what she should do in that case. A voice rang out from the letter. He announced that a young wizard had once created a special ring. Now his magic power will protect the lady. Kira thought that the young man was worried about her. She began to like him more and more. Now you should pay attention to his advice and use them until everything falls into place. Rose reported that there was an atmosphere of anxiety in the house. Milady became the subject of heated discussions among the servants and all other guests present in the palace. Everyone says that the two Lady Farvis live under the same roof. His Majesty had already received a report on Cosette's past life from an assistant. He did not observe any episodes that could tarnish her honor there at all. In any case, she had to be careful and stay on the lookout. Over time, people's trust in Cosette returned. They began to pity and caress the girl. She seemed very beautiful and innocent to everyone. Her difficult fate horrified many and made them feel sorry for the poor child. The girl understood that her opponent just wanted to silently take her place. But there was nothing surprising in this. She wanted to take her place from the very beginning. Now there was nothing to be upset about or to wring one's hands in grief. Milady decided to take a walk in the garden. She was met by Sir Joseph. He asked if she really felt so bad about everything that was happening. The girl assured that she had not held a weapon in her hands for a long time. The knight offered her to go for a walk and at the same time earn money for the training of the order. The girl tried to refuse because she no longer had the right to visit the training ground. Kira thought that this young man reminded her of a small puppy. She could not get rid of this impression. She didn't want to hurt him or hurt him. The girl thought that she would meet next time. Joseph said she would be his lady forever. He is ready to always come to her aid and fulfill all Kira's orders. Under no circumstances would a knight want to humiliate her or make her suffer through anything. The knight emphasized that he would not betray her under any circumstances, and the girl could always ask for his help and support. Kira humbly thanked him for his faithful service and assured her that she would take his advice. Kira practiced with a sword for the first time after the transfer. It was a long, forgotten feeling. She felt like the owner of her life again and was not going to rely on anyone, even on loyal friends. But in general, the girl was going to use this training as a way to banish anger and rage. Instead, Cosette approached her. She held a bouquet of flowers in her hands and offered her sister to admire it together. Kira objected. She asked the girl to get away because she could not allow that this favorite could be injured, and the opponents would use it against her. But the blonde was not going to do that. The Duke's daughter told the new arrival that she wanted to practice now and didn't want anyone to disturb her. The girl could get away from here anyway. The conversation with Cosette was, in her opinion, a waste of time. Cosette followed her sister. She asked why she was so negative towards her. She wished the girl wouldn't look at her so coldly. The newcomer was interested in why she behaved like that with her. When the last arguments were exhausted, Cosette decided to strike at the most painful point. She asked if the reasons for this behavior were actually hidden in the fact that Kira was not really the Duke's daughter. Cosette asked how it felt to be the daughter of a mother who was walking with another man. What will the Duke say when it becomes known to everyone around, and what punishment will he devise for this girl to wash away the insult? The girl continued to talk to Kira's mother. She assured that the daughter of a troubled mother was not guilty of anything. After all, dirty blood flows in her veins for no reason. The woman who gave birth to her is to blame for this. Kira did not respond to provocations. She said that Count Weinberg had lied to her very badly when he told her that she was the Duke's real daughter. This cannot be, and she, a fool, is being used for their own selfish purposes. But it was not her fault that they wanted to take advantage of her. And it is not her fault that she has a beautiful face that is so similar to His Majesty himself. But soon the lie will climb the mountain. And until now, Kira did not want to talk to a liar. Instead, Kira leaned over to the girl and said that this was exactly what she was being used for. Her resemblance to the Duke was very noticeable. But it still didn't mean anything. You can find a lot of such girls. The girl also continued to say that when the deception came to light, she was personally ready to intercede before the Duke and the Emperor that Cosette had no intention of specifically deceiving. The guest could not stand it. She began to scream loudly, trying to prove that she was the most like her father. But Kira was not at all like him. But Cosette considered herself a direct copy of His Majesty. The girl agreed with her. After all, her words were proof of why Count Weinberg used Cosette for deception and his insidious plans. The maids were saved from the quarrel and the subsequent development of events. The maid noticed that Lady Kira was also present. She asked Milady for forgiveness for her unworthy behavior. Kira replied that she had done nothing wrong, so now she can serve Cosette. Cosette was angry. The Duke's daughter advised the guest not to make the maids care about her fate anymore, and which of them is fake is a matter of time. Evidence will be obtained without fail. It is worth waiting. Rose found her mistress reading. It seemed that the appearance of a guest in their palace and her efforts to pass herself off as the Earl's true heiress did not dampen her spirits or discourage her in the least. But the maid was more surprised that her friend, whom she had also made close to Her Majesty's daughter, was now sitting in the yard talking to Cosette. It seems that she was telling something very interesting and sensational. Rose's friend was very fond of reading books. They were about balls and wealthy aristocrats who could afford expensive clothes and gifts. The girl really wanted to try it someday. Crozetta approached her. The guest asked if she could look at the book with the maid. The poor servant felt embarrassed, and the blonde assured that everything was fine. She just wants to make friends. While the girls were talking, the maid thought that the gossip spoke of Lady Cosette's simple origin. And with the arrival of her uncle, she turned into a lady. It is difficult to imagine such a difficult and long transformation. Cosette noticed that the maid began to envy her. She asked if the girl would like to go with her to the salon tomorrow to try on dresses and clothes. The newcomer said that she would appoint her as her maid of honor. At the same time, they could walk together and enjoy the views of the capital. The servant was even afraid to imagine what an honor this could be for her. After all, she was from a simple family of peasants and could not even dream of such a thing. The maid saw expensive dresses and views of the capital only in pictures. After all, she was usually always in the palace of the hostess, who called the fashion designer to her room personally. Then it was a chance.